Live from Mortgage One Studios. Yeah, I got to remember where I am. Russ Clark Show. Phone lines. I'm going to leave them open today. It is my cell phone still, so we don't have a phone in studio yet. Not in a big hurry. It'll happen. But the phone lines are open 928 941 0304. So uh, give me a call. I don't think I have anyone coming in today. I really haven't taken the time to get that done. Yesterday was my, and I've had this heart procedure. I don't know if I want to call it heart surgery, heart procedure where they go into the heart, take pictures, and they do an ablation. They kill some cells that are causing electrical problems. Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild they can do that. That they shove equipment into your heart, but and they don't open your chest or anything. It's done through a vein. But yesterday, and it's only been a couple weeks since that's been done, and I feel great and all. But there's a concern. There's a concern. It's still healing. They say it's going to take 9 months to the heart to get over the trauma of having all that stuff done. So take it easy. When I have been, the first day in the gym was yesterday. I'd meant to go back before. I wanted to, if nothing else, to sit there and talk or something, but no, I didn't. I didn't feel up to it. But yesterday, my heart rate when I went in was like 108, 109, something. I just nervousness, I guess, uh, at my heart rate, and I monitored a lot. It went up, but it went down when I started working out. So I felt comfortable, but I did the whole hour, felt great. I used lighter weights. I didn't do a lot of cardio. Took my time, and my heart rate was the best it's been in quite a long time. Well, since AFib. As soon as I was diagnosed with AFib, the heart rate was crazy. Yeah, it would go up to 200 beats a minute if I wasn't careful. And of course, you can't sustain that. We try to get that down right away, and we did. So hopefully it's all good. I have some checkups coming up this week, and I find it interesting because it's information I never knew before. I didn't know what to expect and what to do. Uh, of course, there's a lot of YouTube out there that helps. It does. A lot of it's dated, though. A lot of it's very old, and the techniques that they're using today is new, and a lot of it is new. It is like a year old, a little over a year old on some of that. Great improvements, really great. I did pick up a paper this morning, just to look at some of the local stuff, but on the front page of the Yuma Sun right away, they talk about the spaceport. Now, I've talked about it before. It comes up every once in a while. There's going to be a spaceport down in San Luis area. Uh, that is ideal, I guess, as far as location. The closer to the equator, the better. Southern points are the best, like Texas, California has spaceports, Florida has spaceports. I think New Mexico. I think I read in here there was a New Mexico spaceport, which I'm unfamiliar with. But the most famous being in Cape Canaveral and out there. That's where all the Apollo missions took place. But we're in that zone that it makes sense to launch uh, from Yuma. It could make sense. We see them over California occasionally at nighttime when SpaceX takes off. It's very visible. It's fun to see that thing take off and go. Well, you can see the trail of fire going behind it. So, and I don't know how many miles. It's hundreds of miles away, but you see it. Well, Mayor Doug Nichols says that he believes the completion and opening date of the spaceport could be will take 5 to 10 years. That's what they said, but he says he's speculated. He said that maybe the leases could be signed within a year, and the spaceport could be open in a 3-year window. And of course, that's what we should be thinking is how we can get this ball moving. If you're going to do it, let's get the ball moving. And I think a lot of good points come up in this article. That when you start talking about 10 years out or something and you haven't signed anything, well, new administration, new mayor, new council can disrupt things, as we've seen on a federal basis more clearly. We see it on federally. But he said, and he presented this to Yuma County officials that it could be still that far away, 10 years, but He said the spaceport concept has been in development since 2020, involves collaboration between the City of Yuma, Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation, Arizona Western College, and Elevate Southwest, which is identified as the lead organization. And he said it would be very difficult to walk away from if the proposed state port once contracts are signed with individuals. That way it's locked in. So if you have an agreement amongst council, mayor, and staff right now to do it, it might make sense. Said the investors will do the due diligence. They want to see, you see the federal government aviation administration license, and they have to do all that. We don't. We'd be landowners and leases. We'd lease the land. The city's revenue stream from the spaceport would come from the leasing of the land to the businesses, which was interesting because according to this article, they don't even own the land. The city, they haven't annexed it yet. They said there was a better location near San Luis has been found. The site will be annexed into the city and will be within the city limits. Well, first they got to annex. I thought, there was a few years back, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, where the city was annexing like crazy. We annexed a ton of open land, a ton of I didn't know we left any unannexed. I know Welton and San Luis got concerned about it and asked the city, like, "Hey, why don't you back off?" And because you were going to close them in. Yeah, there was I think it was under Nelson that they wanted to annex on the other side of Telegraph Pass, even towards the Welton area, and of course Welton showed concern for that because that would landlock them. It would stop them from anything. Uh, the site has been the site will be annexed, and he said businesses will have already reached out about leasing the land, including the company's former employee worked at NASA. So, according to the mayor, these people have a proven track record. They got experience. They know what they're doing, and it all looks good to him. He says they're determining what type of lease and structure the city wants. There's a lot of different ways to structure it. So it's obviously still in its infancy. We maybe have talked about it since 2020, but it didn't sound like there's a lot of concrete plans, open, flexible. But there's a lot of people that are interested, according to this. So we need to get into the game. And I don't disagree with the mayor on any of that. We should get into the game. Record heat this week. I don't know that yesterday was all that hot. I didn't feel it, but I know it was supposed to start. Let me just bring it up real quick on my weather station. Today's only going to be 99, so it was not. Yesterday was 94. It wasn't that hot. And then Wednesday 103, Thursday 106, 108 on Friday, 107 on Saturday. That's down a little bit. The other day it was showing 109. So yeah, you got a point down. Sunday 102, back under 100 on Monday, 97 degrees. I don't know if it's too early or not. They say it's a little early because it's what they mean by record. But we had a mild winter. So I guess there's always a payback. Nothing's for free. Said a heat wave, and the heat wave is a high pressure system. It's kind of hanging around, and that'll do it. The high pressure system, and I know I talked to friends this weekend and on the East Coast. It was packed. It was snowed in. It was a lot of air travel was canceled. We talked about that yesterday a little bit. Chicago, Minneapolis, Denver, East Coast too. Even in Washington D.C., a lot of stuff. They had a terrible winter. We were mild. Temperatures were a little warmer. East Coast was 10, 15 degrees colder. Yeah. Yeah, we did that to them. And record snows, which is a shame that they got record snows in Colorado. Colorado needs record snows because we need record water. our this warmer winter didn't work for us as far as moisture. The moisture wasn't there. I think I looked at Lake Mead the other day or Lake Powell, one of down like 39 feet from last year. We've already been in drought conditions and they've continued to go down. It's like 30% full. I mean, 30% uh, full. So the drought continues. The conditions did not change this year. I mean, we did not have good moisture, not good weather for filling up our reservoirs. So expect some changes on allocations. That's what happens. If it gets down even more, then allocations change, and yeah, somebody's going to end up with less water. Theoretically, we're on that list of last to be affected, but that's not always the way it works. There's always been a situation, or at least what I've seen, the situation is everybody pitches in, even if you're not on the list. You're going to pitch in. That's unfortunate. New Arizona allows retailers to round cast purchases as pennies fade out. Right. They're going to stop making pennies. So for all of you hoarding them, you might as well turn them in. I think they'll always be worth a penny. That'll never go away. I guess if you don't turn them in, it's still worth a penny. I don't know how many people are going to take it. It's legal tender forever. Even a half penny's legal tender. I don't think that ever cancels out, but there's a lot of businesses, I'm sure, that at some point will stop taking pennies and start dishing out pennies. It makes sense, though. I mean, if you look at the history of the country of what a penny's worth and what a penny's worth today, it shouldn't even exist. I agree that it should go away. The penny's lost everything. There's nothing you can buy for a penny anymore. It used to. Yeah, it used to. Uh, it says Arizona are about to have fewer loose coins in the pocket. I don't know that there's a lot of people that don't take pennies. They leave it at the counter. There's usually a penny, not all, but for some places they keep pennies, donations. If you want to just drop your pennies in a jar, they'll take them. Give it to the next person because pennies have become a nuisance. Right now, it's legal for Arizona merchants to round up or round down right now. So if you go to a store now, they can round up and round down. I really didn't know that. I haven't noticed anybody doing that. I usually pay with credit card, and credit cards would be exempt from that because they go right to the penny. And but businesses can do it on the amount of change. I know people that would fight for that extra penny. You know, don't round up. At the and that's for when people pay in cash. Uh, and this is all because Governor Katie Hobbs signed legislation to make it official. Some retailers have been doing it informally. That's the one I've never seen them do it, but they've been doing it informally for months. Well, and I guess it takes a bill to do that. The article points out something hilarious that Representative Teresa Martinez points out a couple of businesses that are already doing the round, and they say that McDonald's restaurants keep the penny for itself. Yeah, I guess they round up, so they keep the pennies. Where Fry's rounds the other way and they give the penny back. They let the customer have the extra penny. Uh, so she suggested that Arizona merchants follow what has become known as the Swedish rounding, and that's a suggestion. I hope it's not law. And it's named for the first country that came up with the rounding. Somehow Sweden got that. And I'll explain what it is, but I'm not really a fan of it. Maybe I'll change. We'll see. It says it works this way. If the final tab ends with a 1, 2, 6, or 7, the bill's rounded down. to the nearest nickel. If a bill ending in 3, 4, 8, or 9 rounds up. Huh. Seems complicated. 1, 2, 6, or 7 rounds down. 3, 4, 5, 8. I'm sorry, 3, 4, 8, 9 rounds up. So there's no questions or complaints. And people will complain. They will. Even if they don't need the penny, they're going to complain. The new law requires a sign spelling out the methodology that's going to be used. Cash transactions are rounded to the nearest 5-cent increment to state law. Great. It mentioned that the penny stopped using copper in 1982. Now it's zinc. That's what your new pennies are, zinc with a layer of copper. Still costs 3.5 cents to produce a 1-cent coin. Hilarious. I thought it was 5 cents, but they say 3.5 cents here, or 3.7. I remember not too long ago, I saw some posting on X or something that showed a bag of pennies that were fake pennies. They were toy pennies. Toy pennies, for children to play, to play shopkeeper. There were 50 pennies in the bag, and it was $1.50, and they were all plastic. So you could use real pennies cheaper. But I guess they sold them. They did. Of course, it won't count for credit cards. The bill was signed, I guess, by all the legislatures, but a couple. There was a couple Democrats that didn't sign the bill about rounding, which is always interesting to find out what the problem is. The Representative Marina Sandoval out of Goodyear. She remains unconvinced that cash customers won't end up shorted over the long run. So her expectation is that the customers are going to get the short end of the rounding. I don't know how that could happen. It should all even out in the long run. But she says no. She says many bills seem to wind up ending in 98 or 98 cents. And with the new law, those bills will be rounded up. So people get charged an extra 2 cents. And yeah, there's going to be people complain. There's a big cash population, especially in the Latino and undocumented communities. So we're worried about the undocumented people, illegals. And so people really work hard for their money. And even though it's only 1 or 2 pennies, if you add it up over time, it could affect them. Senator Sally Ann Gonzalez, also a Democrat, out of Tucson, said that such a clause does more than mean immediate enactment. I don't know. Deprives Arizonans who may not like what the legislature has done of a constitutional right that they have on every other bill, the ability to gather enough signatures to refer it to the ballot and hold up enactment until voters have the final say. So she thinks it should be a voter referendum. Legislators shouldn't do their job. I think that's a legislation job, in my opinion. Well, so did all the other legislators. Those are only 2, I guess, that had an objection. One was convinced that the people are going to get cheated. One thinks that legislators shouldn't make any decisions. Yeah, should just go right to the voter. Let me see. I got a note here about the equator. Equator, the Earth rotates at 1,000 miles per hour. Easier to launch the closer you are to the equator. Because we were talking about spaceport, and I said, the closer to the equator, the better. Takes less fuel and can carry more payload by taking advantage of this rotational speed. The Guyana Space Center, located in French Guiana, is at a little over 5 degrees north of the equator. That's probably a better spot. It'd be hard to trailer our rockets there, though. I don't know if you've seen them move the rockets from at the Kennedy Space Center when they're in the hangars, and they put them on that huge vehicle that's tracked. I don't know what it moves, like half a mile an hour or something. Yeah, it would take a long time to get to the Guyana Space Center. But it does make sense. Yeah, the closer to the equator, the better. And that's why the southern states. That's why you're not going to see a spaceport in Minnesota. They got enough problems, Minnesota. In fact, let's talk about Minnesota for a minute. I just happened to read an article on this morning. I watched it. And before I tell you about the article, I watched a Tim Walz interrogation. It was in legislature just recently. He's the most evasive, not answering a question directly guy you're ever going to want to meet. It had to do with driver's licenses, where his state issues driver's licenses to people that don't deserve them, that shouldn't have them, illegal immigrants, and they just passed a law that the information contained in acquiring a license in Minnesota can't be shared with the federal government at all. So he was questioned about that on by a senator or representative, I can't remember which, but he just I don't understand why it makes a difference and stuff. He's just annoying. He won't answer the question directly. He says that, well, illegal immigration has nothing to do with driver's license and stuff. Well, the point is that they've got information, they've gathered information, and they're trying to block it from the federal government about the information they've got, and pointed out about the recent deaths from people that are ill prepared to drive, don't know the language, can't read the language, don't know the signs, and have been killing people on highways. It's just a fact that pops up. It's a fact that some of them are from Minnesota. And he said anybody could wreck a car, type stuff. We have the third safest roads in the states or something, according to the Highway Safety Patrol. Highway safety data. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. It could be. It could be. That doesn't mean we should make more people able to drive the roads that aren't qualified. Well, we're in good shape, so we can afford a few more deaths on the highway. Might as well just stick our necks out and let some ruffians drive. No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And when they do that, they want to put clauses in there that information can't be shared with the federal government. I don't know if that's going to hold up in court, and it's always going to go to court. That's just the way these things work. It's a rogue state, sanctuary state. We will not comply states with federal rules, federal regulations. We will not comply. California, Illinois, New York, Minnesota. They got their own little group, want to break away, and none of them are doing well. They're breaking away and doing all they can to say, we don't want to follow these common sense rules. We don't want to do that. And they're suffering financially. They're suffering with homelessness. They're suffering with a lot of issues. They've been misusing funds, according to recent reports of fraud of federal funds. And I guess that's a way to support their bad ideas, is we're just going to let them, and they don't do it directly, they let them rip off federal funds.
Carl Kaiser.
And I think that was Carl Kaiser. My phone told me so. Let me take that. You're on the air, sir.
Hey, how we doing, Russ?
We're doing well, sir.
Isn't that amazing? That little thing you have in your pocket will tell you who's calling you. It'll tell you if it's a spam.
Yeah, it can. The amazing thing, it said Carl Kaiser, and I answered it anyway.
Yeah. that is probably really amazing. Yeah, but you answer like you don't really care who it is, and as long as you don't get real vulgar and being an idiot, you talk to anybody, Russ.
That is correct. We want everyone, because everybody really lives out there, and the more that we understand the entire community, the better I think we are off for it, Carl. So yeah, everybody gets on.
Oh, and my 2 cents for today is are we going to have to change our name, because we were called the United States of America, and now what people are, and I'm saying the Democrats, they don't like the way our country is being run. They want to change it to socialism.
They do. I think we get to keep the name because the Democrats don't really mind about the name. They will take any name and change its meaning anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
So
to them.
that's it really bothers me because we have something. We're getting ready to go up on our 250th birthday.
Oh, and it's glorious. It's great. And we are a great country.
Yeah.
And yes, we've got some problems. There's things we need to rectify and fix. And we've got a lot of evil pushing back, not wanting it fixed. They want the problems to persist, the chaos to persist. But we've got more to be thankful for than we have on problem side.
Well, you know what the United States should be real thankful for, and they're not. Some of them aren't. That President Trump was strong enough to go to Iran and say, "Hey, you are not going to have an atomic weapon.
Right. Well,
You are
every
not going to
every
have nuclear."
you're right, and every president has said it. Rhetoric, moved their lips and said it. Trump has actually been the only one to really go in and stopped it because Iran wasn't listening, not negotiating, not cooperating. They gave her lip service right back. And so it was all meaningless. For decades, it's all meaningless.
And
And
they're still doing the same thing.
of course,
They haven't changed.
that's all they know. That's all they know, man.
Yeah.
So in fact,
And
it's worse because they have AI now to make up, visually that they're winning the war, visually that they're shooting down airplanes, visually that they've sunk the USS Lincoln. That's just crazy. But if you live in Iran and you're living in that bubble and you're one that are following, you may think it's all true that the United
well,
States is being beat up.
well, that is how the communists work. They just want to control
Yep.
what it goes out there on the air. And the United States, we say, let's put it all out there, and then we will make up our own decision and do it the way we feel it should be done. And if we feel it should be done that way, everybody should do it.
We need to tell the
I'm
truth.
talking about that live in the United States.
Yeah, and we need to tell the truth all the time, whether it hurts us or
Yeah.
helps us. It doesn't matter. And frame it accordingly. And that's what the mainstream press misses. They tell the truth or half truths.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't Iran? Isn't he shooting missiles over into uh, different countries right
Oh,
now?
well, yeah, they're all getting them. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates. They're all getting them, and Iran's come out and apologized. Oh, we didn't. We won't do that again. And then it was like, well, we're just going after air bases that are owned by or operated by the United States government that's on your property. But that's not true either because a lot of them do wander into civilian territories. They've
Yeah.
everyone's under attack. And my understanding is a lot of these countries, and this comes from Hegseth and some of Marco Rubio and all, that the countries will tell us that they're tired of it, they're going to help, but they won't say it publicly. And I'm talking like these Muslim countries.
Well,
They want to shut it
can't-
down. They want to shut Iran down, and they're supporting us in doing it, but they can't say it publicly, I guess, for some reason.
I always call that page two. Well, if they start saying they're wanting to help the United States, then they just get more missiles.
Well, maybe, and
That's
a lot of them, look at is Saudi Arabia an ally? We've had bases there for a long time. They helped us during Desert Storm. We've operated out of there. We operate out of the United Arab Emirates. My son is an Air Force officer, was stationed at the United Arab Emirates. And the reason he was stationed there is because they buy our planes, our F-16s. And he was there to oversee maintenance and to watch and train and make sure that they were all being maintained properly.
Well, wasn't Iran in the '60s really a pretty neat place? Was a very good country then, wasn't it?
It was a westernized country, and pictures from Iran back then, you couldn't tell whether you were in California or Iran. It was people were profitable, westernized before the revolution, and then women weren't allowed on the streets without a man. They were in burqas, not allowed to drive, took away all rights, But before then, women were like Western women, that they were like real people. They could work and have jobs and stuff.
They were Republicans.
Yeah, they could do all of that stuff. And now,
Yeah.
and nobody talks about those atrocities. In the Hollywood crowd is so angry at Trump. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. You're tearing up Iran. It's terrible what you're doing to the, to the mullahs and all that. They never once shed a tear for the atrocities that women have endured in Iran. And they not that, maybe it's because they can't identify what a woman is, but they don't look at the population in Iran that's been asking for help, or the 30 to 40,000 that were recently killed because of protests, that were murdered by their own government. They're standing by the government of Iran. Hollywood is saying, "No, there are people." Same with Democrats too, and it's part of that Trump derangement syndrome. If Iran is being attacked by Trump, then we got to side with Iran. So keep the atrocities, Iran. Make a nuclear bomb, anything to make Trump look bad, whatever. It's just ridiculous. Like, they stopped caring about the United States.
Well, what's Iran going to do with that nuclear bomb? They're not going to pet it. They're going to send it to us.
Look what they're doing right now because they're angry. They cut off the Strait of Hormuz for one reason, and they say it because they want to ruin the economy in the world. They want to hurt the economic power in the world. They don't care, and then they're attacking with all the missiles they have to everybody. Do you think if they didn't have if they had a nuclear right today, that thing wouldn't have already launched? I believe it probably would have.
Well, I'd put my money on it. It would. And what they're doing now is they are also hurting China, and that ain't too bueno either.
Correct.
Because
they get like 80-90% of their oil out of the Strait of Hormuz.
And so now, what is China going to start thinking? Because, hey, President Trump has a lot of oil. President Trump, he's pretty strong in the world right now. I mean, for being the United States, I'm glad I'm here.
I think so. He's strong, but that doesn't mean he's beloved everywhere. I mean, I don't think China likes him because it's disrupting what China had planned on their economic takeovers, that and their economic advantage that they always had with the United States on trade policies and stuff. And Trump has taken a lot of that away. Now this oil thing, that isn't something Trump wanted to take away. But here's the deal: Iran is putting the pressure on the rest of the world to tell Trump to stop it, because they feel that if they cut the oil off, that the rest of the world will buckle and say, we'll just let Iran have what they want so that we get our oil. Short. They're looking very short-sighted. And I guess that's worked for them for many years. That's why they've put so much protection at the Strait of Hormuz. They could take out. They've got some islands around the Strait of Hormuz that are. They call them like concrete aircraft carrier. They've got aircraft carrier type armaments on them, but they're embedded in concrete, and they'd be hard to take out. Now, he's already taken out the one island as far as military that was doing all the pumping, but there's other islands out there that are just for defensive purposes. And they have torpedoes ability. They got mortars ability. They got artillery ability, and they're so close. That's right near the straits, within just a couple miles of the straits. And if a ship was there, they could hit them and take them out. And you can't. There's not a lot of defensive. You don't see it coming. It's there before you see it. It comes too fast because they're right there. So that's why it's not that easy to open it. You can say, well, we've got so much power, we can just open it. Well, no, not really. Here's what they're doing, though. They're bringing up, I can't remember the name of the ship. I think it's the Liberty. That's kind of like a mini aircraft carrier for the Marines. Marines have one that is going to carry troops and everything. And they're going to, from what speculation I heard from other military people, they're going to come in and overwhelm those islands and have Marines occupy them and use those islands themselves to counter any kind of problems that Iran has against shipping. And that way they're in closer proximity than what Iran would be, and they better defend the ships as they're able to travel through. Right now it'd be really pretty risky, and Iran knows that. They said that they don't have to close it off. They just have to make it, if they hit one ship, then the insurance would be so high on those ships, none of them's going to do it. They're not going to go through because of the safety concerns is too high, and the insurance companies aren't. Insurance companies just say you're on your own if you go into that war zone. So United States has got to make it safe and make real sure it's safe. Because if they start escorting a ship through and that ship gets hit, it's the insurance companies that are going to go nuts and going to close it down.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Iran. They'll just tell everybody it's no go.
Yeah, isn't that what President Trump said? That he would make sure that those ships got through? Or
He did, and he's doing it, but he's got to
Yes.
take over those islands. He's got to take over those islands that are located right there in the strait. And that strait's only 20 miles wide. You know, it's not. I say that's a lot if you're making a swim for it, Carl. It's not a lot if you're firing missiles from that distance.
Well,
Yeah.
that's just like going to the sand dunes. That's about 18 miles. So from Yuma to the other side of the sand dunes, that's how wide it is.
Yeah, and if you're defending it with modern equipment, and Iran has some modern equipment, then it's problematic. And these things are down in bunkers and all that. And I don't know if the B-2s could get rid of them, but I guess they're bringing in the Marines. There's a real possibility that the Marines are going to be landing there. I don't know where that ship is right now that they're bringing in, but they're not going to put an aircraft carrier in there. Too much risk to an aircraft carrier. So they've got this little one. I think it's called a Liberty or something. I might be wrong. I'll have to look it up. But it's a Marine. It's got some. It's got some F-35s on it and some helicopters. And they're not going to take the ship in there. They're going to be able to reach them with the helicopters and reach them with the F-35s. And
then you got to reach in with the big hammer and whack them. Russ, is what they're going to do.
Well, and apparently they're going to occupy it. Then once they get it occupied, they're going to set up their own missiles, their own Patriots or HIMARS or whatever they've got. I guess, whatever's going to protect those boats and be able to offer them safe passage. It's a dangerous situation. It's tough. It's not easy.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'd rather do it now than doing it over here. I'd rather do it there.
And there's no way around it. I guess I've learned a lot with this war. I didn't realize that they don't really have any deep ocean ports around the area to bring the ships in, and that's what they need is deep. And the island that I forget the island now that does all the piping, it has to go through the strait to get to that one's got a deep water port. So those big tankers, those tankers take a lot of water. I mean, they need deep water. They can go right up and dock and pump full of oil, and that's where all the pipelines go to that one island, and that's out of Saudi Arabia or all the surrounding countries. They pump out of that island. That's their deep water port. And now Iran's held everybody hostage. All the oil that's flowing from that area goes through that strait. And Iran has used that for years as a threat to say, if you don't do what I want, we'll blow up ships and you'll lose all your oil. Trump's the first one that has said, we're going to take care of it. We're going to stop the threat.
Well, they're going to stop the bully.
I guess so. I hope so. And it's only supposed to take a few weeks. I mean, we're into it. What are we into it? 2 weeks right now?
Well, it'll be close to it.
Yeah, somewhere around 2 weeks. And I mean, amount of devastation is tremendous, but they haven't stopped enough to make it zero. And as long as it's not zero, those big super tankers are sitting ducks.
Yes, and one thing I think is making it work so good is Pete Hegseth really can communicate with President Trump very well.
Oh my gosh, I think he does, and I think they also communicate very well with the public, and they come all the time, Hegseth and Rubio and Trump, and talk about the misleading that the press is doing. Hegseth is incredulous when the press has come out and said, well, the Trump administration didn't plan for this Hormuz thing. It's like, Pete Hegseth, are you crazy? You think This thing has been a problem forever. You think we didn't work that into the plans? Of course they did. It's just arrogance. And he noted that CBS, or none of them, ABC, called the military to ask them if they planned. They don't call.
Yeah.
They just make it up as they go.
Before I get off the air, Russ, I want to invite people to come out to our trolley out there at the fair. We're at the 32nd Street gate. Stop by and I got for people want to stop by and get one. I got a bunch of Trump 447 buttons I'm going to be giving away. So
yeah, we need to tell everybody to get out there and sign ballots. Now, look, I mean, sign petitions to run. No, it's too late then. It's not too late today. I'm saying today. We need to do it today.
Yes. No, I apologize, sir. Yes.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
And you can do it electronically. You can get on the website for, I know the county website and sign petitions, but the mayor, David or Eric Dagobert, and then Michelle Pena for sure need those signatures. So please do me a favor, do Carl a favor, get on there and sign those things, and let's get these guys on the ballot. They need so many this time. They need 1,000.
Yes. Well, even the mayor was 1,000, wasn't it?
You mean in years past?
No. I mean, the mayor would.
Oh, the mayor.
Get 1,000.
Yeah, he's got to get 1,000. In years past, it's been like 500. So it's doubled up because just the timing of the thing, and then they cut the amount of time that you can get the signatures short. They cut out the fair. You can't get signatures at the fair because it's too late. They got to be turned in before the fair now, which the fair helped a lot. You got all those people in there, and people would pour out and sign ballots or sign petitions to be on the ballot. And unfortunately, that all got taken away because of the adjustments that were made on when voting's going to happen. So it's putting people in a tailspin right now. They're getting a little panic because a lot of people don't have all the ballots, all the signatures they need right now.
That's right. Now, what is the organization that put it all in a tailspin? Who changed the laws? Who did that?
That comes from the state, but they did it. I don't remember exactly the rationale behind it. I don't. But it was changed by a month.
Well, did this come from the governor, or who did it come from?
The governor would have control over that, I would think, or the Secretary of State in that area. Yeah. But I don't know if the rationale was solid or sound or not. I don't remember, Carl. I can't tell you she's doing a terrible job. I don't know.
Well, it's got to be a terrible job of something that was working really well, and it helped the people out a lot to get their signatures, and then they changed it.
It threw a monkey wrench in a lot of things. It did. And we've got to adapt and we got to figure it out. But we need everyone's help, everyone that's listening, and get on there and sign them.
Who threw the monkey wrench?
That's a good idea to find out. We'll take a look. I'll get an explanation of that. I know I've reported it before, but I can't remember at this point.
You know, another thing I've never found out why they threw the monkey wrench into our voting by taking part of the election away from David Lahr, which the people in Yuma put him in there to find out what the hell was going on.
He's still doing it, though.
They do the county board of supervisors did it, and they said, "Well, we'll take care of it now." And who did it? Who did such a bad time last time was the county board of supervisors.
Yeah. Oh, they did. They did.
Yeah. And so what do we, the people, say? Well, hey, let's put David Lahr up there, and he can get in and look at the books. Yeah. And then they took the books away. So, and that is really kind of upsetting to me. You'd think the people we put in office would be trying to look out for us. Why wouldn't you want to have a very clean election?
Well, I don't think it's that. It for different reasons for David. But that was a temporary thing, and it went away, and they took it away. They took it back, but they're responsible. They're still a responsible party.
Yeah. And we the people said, well, hey, we see what kind of work David Lahr does.
Yeah.
Let's put him in there to look at the books. And they said, no, we don't want him looking at the books. So That kind of upset me because people, look how long David Laura has been trying to get into office and say, "Hey guys, what the hell's going on?" and how much he's been fought against. So
There you go.
there you go.
Yep.
And then here's the last one they're doing now. Look how they're picking on Michelle Pena.
They've always
I
picked
mean,
on Michelle Pena. They've always picked on
yeah.
her. So she's tough. She'll get through it, my friend.
Well, it's gonna take the Republicans to get off their duffs and get out and vote this time for Michelle Pena. If we don't, we're going. And I would put money in Laughlin or Vegas. And I don't gamble. I'd put money on the table. If we don't get out and vote for Michelle Pena, we're going to go blue.
Well, that's always the case. We always have to get out vote.
Yeah.
And I think Republicans have done well. Obviously, or Michelle wouldn't have gotten in the first place. And I think and I think they're going to reward her and continue to keep her.
Well, I know I am.
All right.
I can't afford to lose her because she does such a good job for me.
She does.
That
she does for the whole state.
Well, the whole state is me and you too, buddy.
I agree.
So she's out there working for us, and so we work as hard as we can for her.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. I appreciate the call.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. As Mr. Carl. Okay, I looked it up because Carl asked me, and I couldn't remember for the life of me. Back on February 6th, there was an article put out that today Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs signed a bipartisan bill passed by the Arizona legislature to change the date of the 26th primary and permanently move Arizona primaries to the second to last Tuesday in July. Previously, the date of the primary was the first Tuesday in August, so they set it back, and that's what's causing our problems here. Particularly, it shortened the amount of time we have available to us to get all those signatures, and it took out the fair. So it wasn't done just for us; it was done all over the state. And this year's primary election will take place on July 21st, 2026. The move was needed to allow election officials more time to conduct election preparations for the general election, including ensuring that military and overseas voters have their ballots in time to participate in the general election. Well, we've done such a terrible job, I guess, in the state of Arizona on this, that they decided to move it around. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. It's unfortunate that it hurt us this time. I don't have any problem with it if that's what it takes in the long run, that we can't get the general election, all the stuff done in time. So that was the reason. They moved it back to give more time to get the general election better prepared, particularly because of overseas military voters and things like that, to get the stuff back to them. And they can't send out the ballots until the primaries are over. I mean, for the general election. You got to wait for the primaries. Phone lines are open, 928-941-0304. I told you there's a medicinal bill that just passed. It would ban warrants. Uh-oh. I've got Mr. Edward on the phone. Good morning, Edward.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
I was doing well. You're not going to destroy that, are you?
I am not. I'm calling to take responsibility for my poor actions.
Uh-oh.
I promised you that we would have your whiskey in time, and I just sent you it. I just finished my breakfast, and the executive director down here told me that they are out until next week.
Okay.
I'm going to ship your bottles, if that's okay, but I know your event's on Thursday.
Correct.
If you can, it's the same exact bottle, the original George Washington event bottles, and as soon as they get them restocked, they only release 600 a year.
Right. I knew they were limited. Well, and thank you for thinking of us.
Well, no, I promised you would have them, and I wanted to make sure that people know that it was not you. It's my tardiness in getting this together.
Okay. Can you? I'll see if I can get some pictures or something, and we can sell it and deliver it later.
I shot you a picture of the empty bottle that was at the presentation center.
Okay.
On your phone. But I wanted to say it's not you, it's me. I kept all these issues, because I'm not sure if you've seen the Iranian X feeds. DC's on fire.
Uh-huh.
I had to go through the flags of the Iranian missiles raining down on us.
In DC.
And you didn't see the Iranian feeds this morning?
No, I mean, I know AI's been busy out there and doing that stuff, but Iranians saying they've destroyed DC. You okay?
Well, I'm able to dodge them, but that's why I was delayed. My family and we've been dodging all the Iranian missiles for the past week.
Wow. We're going to take that as an excuse, my friend.
We'll take it. Okay, and I do want to apologize to everyone there. I said I would do it. I hate when I mess things up, but life got away from me.
I should have reminded you sooner. We'll find a way to get that happening. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
you. If you needed more detailed picture, David at the center said he can, put something together.
Okay. I will. I'll give you a call later.
Okay. Talk to you then. Cheers.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye. That was Edward Garrity. And of course, we have a Lincoln Day dinner coming up on Thursday. That is going to be, that's an auction item that was promised to be here, and it might be a little bit late. We will see. I've I've got pictures, and maybe we can auction it off and just know that it's coming. I hope so. We will see when that happens. Phone lines are open 928-344-5258. And I started to talk about Minnesota. The Minnesota bill that's coming through would allow police to collect data, warrants allowing police to collect data from devices near a crime scene. It's going to ban it. It's going to ban it. Now, I think it's well known now that the devices like cell phones are always transmitting your GPS coordinates, is always transmitting. They know where you are. You get that data. I think we found out a lot about it during J6. Now, J6, people were arrested at J6 for being in the Capitol, for being in front of the Capitol, and they found them because their phones pinged. We've got a cell phone on us. And a lot of these people, when you saw them on pictures, they'd be walking behind the velvet ropes and walking around, and they all weren't angry, breaking windows, punching cops. Those guys should go to jail, of course. Some of them were tourists just walking around. And unfortunately, they got caught up in it because they're cell phones. They had cell phones. And then Dinesh D'Souza, when he did, that documentary on 1,000 mules, 2,000 mules, I don't remember exactly how many mules they had, which showed the ballot stuffing and all of that. That was all cell phone technology. Same cell phone technology that police have been using for quite a while now to locate suspects and things like that. And Dinesh D'Souza used it to track people as they were stuffing ballots and to find out where they were going. And a lot of them would go right to an NGO to pick up ballots and then travel around and then distribute those ballots into different boxes and stuff them. And we get them on video. We got them on the pings of the cell phones and all that. Well, now Minnesota's saying that it's unfair. We shouldn't allow police to use cell phone pings. And they said it's a bipartisan group in Minnesota lawmakers that proposed the bill to ban the warrants, to ban them. Gathering data revealing which cell phone and other devices that were near crime scene at a specific time. Senator Erwin May Quad introduced a Senate bill to ban those warrants in most cases. Many of the Democrats are joining, and there was one Republican that joined. The bill would also allow anyone whose information was obtained during the search to sue law enforcement. So if they got your cell phone data and they came and talked to you, said, why were you at this location on such and such a date, they could sue you. Like, you're not allowed to have my information. I don't know if this is something. I mean, this something may end up in the Supreme Court or something. Is this stuff legal? Lawmakers argue that that warrants should be prohibited except in emergency situations. Identify emergency, I guess, for me. They said reverse location warrants, sometimes called geofence or dragnet warrants, are too broad, violate Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. And that's why I say it's probably going to end up going to Supreme Court at some point if it's challenged because of obviously they're using the Constitution. That stuff ends up back with the Supreme Court on whether or not that does violate the Fourth Amendment. Critics of the warrant say authorities can gather data on thousands of people near a particular area, including those who attended an event that could be of interest to law enforcement, such as a protest. Yes, that's what they did on J6. They threw 1,000 people in jail for being in the area. Well, Senator Erwin said, look, we do believe that we have to balance our constitutional rights and public safety so that we're not essentially sending law enforcement in to search for a needle in a haystack by exponentially increasing the size of the haystack. Meaning if there's a bad event and there's a lot of pings in the area, the law enforcement have to go ask all of them. They've been using it for a long time, though. This kind of stuff isn't new. The law enforcement groups, including Minnesota Chief of Police Association, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, said the bill's too broad. They've suggested an unwillingness to negotiate with lawmakers about data privacy concerns. We recognize and share the legislature's commitment to protecting individuals' privacy and civil liberties. However, as drafted, the bill would impose an outright prohibition on investigative tools that are lawful, court supervised, and in many cases critical to solving serious crimes and protecting public safety. Correct. A lot of people have been nabbed, prosecuted just based on, supporting, not just based on the cell phone, but supporting by the cell phone that shows them in the proximity. It was originally proposed by Representative Sandra Feist, a Democrat in the Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law Committee. Her oral arguments in April on the constitutionality of reverse location warrants said the number of reverse location warrants in Minnesota jumped from 22 to 173 between 2018 and 2020. So her justification is that we now have too many. In 2023, and this is news, I didn't know Google did this, but Google said it would stop storing location data in a way that would make it susceptible to reverse location warrant request. So they're going to store it differently, so it's of no use to the police, I guess. The company said all location history data previously stored on its servers had been wiped or moved to a different storage. But such groups as the American Civil Liberties Union and Electronic Frontier Foundation have raised concerns about whether that change is enough. I need to talk to some police officers about this, but I think they use these things a lot more than we think they do. And they just want to stop this for any reason, at least in Minnesota. There are numerous cases and examples of cases where investigators where reverse location data has saved lives, even recently, according to law enforcement agencies. As written, the Senate bill would prohibit warrants to collect information on devices that search for a key specific word, phrase, or website. It would also ban similar collection of GPS coordinates, cell tower, Wi-Fi connectivity data. And that's been a mainstay for them. I mean, they've used that pretty heavily recently in recent years. Minnesota wants to stop it. Leave our criminals alone. They didn't want to stop it during the J6 thing. I know after Dinesh D'Souza did that on the NGOs that were stuffing ballot boxes. Yeah, apparently they stopped carrying their cell phones. Yeah, now the criminals know better. They can't carry their cell phones. They gotta stop carrying them. I guess that's what they should do. If you're a criminal, you can't have a cell phone. Okay, I need to take a break, and we'll be right back. Mortgage One Studios, Russ Clark Show. We'll be back. Russ Clark with you back at Mortgage One Studios. Phone lines are open 928-941-0304. I mentioned we're going to have some hot weather coming up. We do. It's like 107 is going to be a high this week, according to today's forecast. Anyway, it's going to be that. Not today. I think today's only going to be 100, but then it's going to get up to be 107 by Thursday or Friday. Of course, that could change, and we do, but it's going to be warm, regardless, I would imagine. But the East Coast, the Midwest, those guys have been struck hard. I mean, power outages, severe weather, massive winter storms, all that. 452,000 customers are with power, right, or without power on the East Coast, at least when they wrote this report yesterday evening. 452,000 customers. Virginia, Michigan each have more than 122,000 outages, major weather events, record snows. Again, I'm jealous. We could use record snows in Colorado. Pennsylvania, more than 35,000 outages. But the same article says that the East Coast severe weather threat failed to become a major outbreak. That's not a major outbreak. They got some relief. And that's when I really need Dean in here. He's the meteorologist and the scientist. They did get 120 reports of wind damage and some warnings of across a half a dozen states out there, but not nearly the widespread destruction that many feared. There was a phenomenon called a corrective contamination that kind of stopped it from being a historic outbreak of disaster. Throughout the morning, early bird showers and thunderstorms all developed well ahead of the primary cold front. Well, the early bird showers and thunderstorms, I guess, act like an atmospheric sponge, gobbled up the instability and moisture, or a corrective available potential energy, a CAPE. Never heard of such a thing, but again, that's why I named Dean. But that's what saved them from worse disaster, because the air had been worked over, leaving the environment starved of the fuel necessary for explosive storm growth or long track tornadoes. It kept them. It kept them from that. So now they're saying that they've got to work that into their model now when they do forecasts. And we got to start looking at that a little more closely now. Got to work that into the model before we do the, because they forecasted more doom and gloom than what actually happened, which is a good thing. I'm glad they'd had more doom and gloom than what really happened. Let me see. Billionaires are still moving. I thought it was too late, but this article just came out. And I mean, moving out of California. California made a law that they're going to, well, not made a law. They hope to be making a law that we're going to bill billionaires in the state of California. They are going to bill billionaires in the state of California a wealth tax one time. Yeah, don't believe a politician that says just once anyway. One time wealth tax. And it's not going to be that much. It's only 5% of your total net worth. Yeah, 5% of whatever you're worth on paper. One time in California. Now, it's effective January 1st, 2026, but the law's not even in place yet. Which I didn't know you could do that, but that's the way it's written. And it's going to be a voter referendum. Which I think is terribly unfair. I mean, on the voter referendum, it's going to say, do you want a law that just taxes people that have $1 billion 5%? Well, the non-billion dollar people outnumber the billion-dollar people by a really, really large margin. I mean, there's billionaires in California, but not near as many as there are at everybody else's. So all everybody has to do says, yeah, bill those evil billionaires. And all the billionaires have to fork over 5% of their net worth. One billionaire, which is an Uber co-founder, Travis Kalanick, he officially joined the exodus from California, revealing he moved to Texas, Austin, Texas. And he revealed that he moved to Austin, Texas just weeks before January 1st, which keeps him out. So he's out restating the facts. He says, just to be clear, on December 18th, I moved to Texas. Now, I wonder if does he have documents of moving? It's kind of hard to document a billionaire anyway. I mean, he probably has dozens of houses all over the place. What makes his main residence? He says, I don't know what's so specific about December 18th, but let me say it's prior to January. And he says, I'm a little FOMO. I had to look that out. FOMO about Florida. He says, I'm FOMO of these people going to Florida. I'm like, dude, why so much Florida action? Come on, homies. I've never met Travis. I don't know anything about him. FOMO means fear of missing out. Yeah, I'm behind times. I had to look it up. FOMO. He left his San Francisco home for Texas just 14 days before the new year. I'm just wondering why I'm getting an article about this right now. I'm thinking that he decided, like recently, to move to Texas, but backdated to the 18th of December. That's my guess. I don't know. Does he have a receipt from U-Haul? I don't think so, because I think he probably already had houses all over the place. It's just a matter of just a clerical change. By the way, this is my main residence. That's all it is for them. Those guys probably. He has more than one house. He's already probably got more than one house. So the voters have to approve the referendum, which we won't be on until later this year, and then it's retroactive back to January 1st, which I would hope that gets challenged. I don't know you could put a law in place and then make it retroactive back before the law was written. I would think that's got serious problems already. But if Kalanick would have stayed in California, which he didn't, he's estimated to have a fortune worth $3.6 billion. He would have to cut a check to the state of California for $180 million. So would you move to Texas to save $180 million? Of course. Elon Musk moved. Planter co-founder Joe Lunsdale moved. Venture capitalist David Sachs moved. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, venture capitalist Peter Thiel, Google co-founders Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah, they all moved out. Yeah, they're in Florida mostly. Yeah, everybody but Travis. Travis wants to know why there. I think California's just completely shooting itself in the foot. I don't get them. I mean, to have a billionaire in your neighborhood's a good thing. They spend money. They employ people. I don't know. I don't know that California's figured that out. And I can't remember the article I read that if somebody's there making $1 billion, it's a lot of work. You got to make $1 billion, and people, a lot of these people on the left say, "Well, nobody deserves $1 billion. You can't make that much." Well, in essence, they're generating a huge amount of wealth, and they only keep a small fraction of it. The $1 billion that they make is because like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs made billions of dollars, but he made trillions of dollars in product to get to that billion. And that employed untold number of people. But they don't see it that way. Yep. We're going to take what you got. You shouldn't have that much. Yeah, it's bad. Whatever you tax, you get less of. We use that sometimes. Tax cigarettes so that people smoke less. And then we put tax on labor so that you just don't want to work as much. Yeah, I'm not gonna work that hard for labor. I get taxed more. Now they're taxing wealth on billionaires. At least Texas has. I don't know anybody else that's going to do that. I think it's going to end up being a horrible thing for California. And I don't think they care, though. I think they just put their heads down and keep going. It doesn't seem to bother them. It seems to, just continue on. See, Texas, since we started talking about Texas, and I hear a lot of good things about Texas all the time. Well, here's another good thing. They just found a lot of rare earth deposits. How come we're just now finding these things? I mean, rare earth is something we've been using for quite a while, and we've been talking about its scarcity. Well, hence the name rare earth. It's not really scarce, though. Rare earth is abundant. Rare earth minerals are abundant. They're not easy to mine. They're literally all over the planet. But not very many people mine them, and China seems to have cornered that market, not only on mining but on refining. Refining is a big deal also, and China owns most of that, and that's why lithium, one of the more known rare earth minerals that goes into the batteries, is such a big deal, and the prices go up, and China's cornered that market pretty much. I don't know, 90% or close to it, probably. Well, that's causing other countries to spool up. That's causing other people to spool up, including the United States. Although it's tough in the United States, just to get permits and stuff like that is not easy. Particularly mining like something like rare earth minerals. I imagine that's moving a lot of dirt. And having Trump in office is going to help because you're going to get permits that are more reasonable versus do nothing. But there's a round top deposit, which is considered one of the richest heavy rare earth mineral sites in North America. It's in Texas. Of course, it's in Texas. So efforts to develop domestic rare earth resources are gaining momentum in Texas as policymakers and industry leaders push to reduce U.S. reliance on China, which we need to. China is not our friend. I mean, they're a competitor, but I think more than that, they want to overtake us for the most powerful nation on the planet and all that other stuff. They want to get their tentacles out there. But we rely on them for so much, particularly these minerals. We rely on them in our defense industry. Magnets are rare earth minerals, the materials they use for magnets. And all advanced technology, somehow it's all tied up in that stuff. So Texas Land Commissioner Dawn Buckingham said that the development of round top rare earth deposits could help strengthen U.S. national security while generating billions of dollars in revenue for Texas public schools. Billions of dollars that California will never have, because I think if California had rare earth minerals they were tripping over, they would never permit it to be used. California has become insane. I think they're just trying to damage themselves and not take advantage of the opportunities they have. See, the project has drawn increasing attention as the U.S. looks to challenge China's longstanding dominance on the global rare earth supply. Buckingham said the state's mineral resources could play a key role in reshaping the balance while delivering economic benefits to Texas. There are 17 rare earth minerals. We have 15. We're heavy in the heavies. These are the really important ones. It's going to be billions of dollars into public education. We're breaking China's stronghold on this market. We are making Texas safer. Well, they're also focusing on the infrastructure. Now, it's one thing to be able to, put a shovel in the ground and bring up a bunch of these rare earth minerals. It's another to process them. I don't think there's any place in the United States that can do that. And they explained that officials also need to be focusing on the infrastructure that's needed to process the minerals domestically. We have lots of rare earth minerals all over the region. We're looking at those deposits right now. It's going to be billions of dollars to the school children of Texas. Now, this is a short article, but I highlighted that they keep saying school children over and over again. There's two reasons they're doing this. There's school children and security, and that's it, to take it away from China. National security and school children. Not so we can make the owners rich. That's just smart. You're better off not saying that. They put children in there. That's how they sold the lottery systems to us, remember? Yeah, when they wanted us to vote on the lottery system, that happened all over the country. Every state did it. Yeah, we need to get all this money into the kids. The kids are going to be flowing in money. We'll buy computers and buses. These kids are going to have so much infrastructure if we just pass the lottery. I don't even think that much money goes to the kids anymore as a percentage. I don't think it's that much. It's not what it was. They keep tapping it for other stuff now. That's the way it works. Well, right now, this is all going to go to school children in Texas, according to this article. And according to Dawn Buckingham, the land commission, look at all the money we're going to get for the children. Yeah, it's all for the children. I don't see. All of a sudden, it sounds dirty to me. It sounds wrong. I don't believe them. It's probably true. Children will get a little bit of money. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work like the lottery system did a lot. Yeah, you get $1 billion from the lottery system, so that's good. Now the taxpayers don't have to pay that billion; they'll take it away over on the other side. I don't think it just develops a pile of money for the school children, and then we have to figure out how to spend it. I don't think that happens. But they sell it. That's the best way to sell it. Tell them it's for the kids. Uh, it works, so they keep going to that. I guess it's going to continue to work. There's a U.S. Army general in trouble. He's retired. He's gone. He was a Army general that let me see, General Antonio Guto. He's a major general Antonio Guto. He's now retired. He's commander of the 2nd Assistance Group in Ukraine. He was based in Germany from 22 to 24. He was returning. He had a problem. The story's about a problem he had, about just his personal personal actions in public, and losing some classified documents. Not good. But he was returning from Ukraine to Germany on April 3rd of 24. So it was a couple years ago. He had classified maps that were stored in a cylinder tube. Apparently, that's not proper package for a general to be carrying those classified maps. It wasn't a locked container or anything. Apparently, that would have been protocol. When he arrived in Poland on the morning of April 4th, they departed, and he left his tube map. Yeah, the tube with the maps containing all the classified documents on the train in Poland. Man, I don't think that's good. Well, the classified documents were located on the train, delivered to the U.S. Embassy by a Ukrainian train attendant 24 hours after they were noticed missing. In addition to the missing documents, he had an incident on May 13th, 24. So right after that, he drank 2 500 milliliter bottles of cha-cha. I don't know what that is. It's a brandy, Georgian brandy. It contains 40 to 50% alcohol. And during a military event while on a 9-day trip to Ukraine, he lost his balance, fell backwards in his hotel room, resulting in concussion. Fell again, was incoherent during a high-level meeting that day, and then Secretary Blinken, Anthony Blinken, he was then Secretary of State. The U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, the Ukrainian military generals, the IG report said the witness said Aguto seemed not himself and questioned whether he should we should meet with Blinken. Well, then he was running late on his route back to the embassy, fell again, hitting his jaw on the concrete, tearing his jacket. So he showed up to a meeting looking disheveled, out of it. And this is a major general. I don't know what a major general would do to a young officer that had this issue going on. People reported him slurring his words, acting cognitively dismissed, was diagnosed with a concussion during a hospital visit. His appearance was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, had large visible wound on his elbow, spoke slowly, seemed confused, seemed like Biden, I guess. Asked the same question repeatedly, frequently returned to the same topic. Later in the afternoon, he sought medical attention, and they confirmed he suffered a concussion. And they determined also that his falls were from overindulgence of alcohol. Now, whoever wrote this article reached out to Guto to comment. They couldn't get a hold of him. I don't know what happens to a general that has this kind of problem. Lose some classified maps on a train, and then have a bout of public drunkenness, followed up by, I guess, the concussion. They're saying the concussion is what's causing the incoherent. I would imagine the military to be tough on him, but he's retired now. Maybe that's why he's retired. I have no idea. He was active in August of 24. That's when he was stationed in Germany. No, but I think it's very rare for a general to act like that. I would think that would be I guess that's why it's in an article. Things like that don't generally happen. Generals usually have their stuff together, from all I've ever seen. And yeah, I've run into a few generals. Remember, General Hudson lived here in the area for a long time, and I got to know him very well. Uh, always on top of it. And my son being at the Air Force Academy, it's like generals are everywhere at the Air Force Academy. You can't go around the corner without bumping into a general at the Air Force Academy. And of course, I always enjoyed talking to the generals, which made my son nervous. My son is a cadet, and he would at times he would tell me not to talk to a general. I can't help it myself. I'm always intrigued. I'm always intrigued by that. I know I ran into one. I got myself in trouble for this one, but I ran into a major general. Gosh, I want to remember his name. I think it was Kennedy at the time. He was an Air Force general, and I found him at a NASCAR event in Charlotte. I was in Charlotte at the NASCAR event, and I had a hot pass. Hot pass is when you get into the pits with the cars racing. You get into the pits, but I had a hot pass because I was on stage with the drivers giving out checks for vendors that were like the rookie of the week, the whatever of the week checks. There were vendors that gave those out. It was Gates Rubber Company that I was doing that for. So I said, great, give me the pass. Nobody wants to do those things. I'll do them. The people when I was with Napa at the time, the people at Napa were like, no, get Russ, he'll do it. And I said, absolutely, I'll do it. And so while I was with the hot pass, and I was, as soon as they announce that the pits are closed, that means everybody has to leave. That's a vendor. That doesn't belong to everybody except the hot passes. So when everyone leaves, that's when the drivers really come out. A lot of them are in there, studying, calming down, getting ready for the race. And they're not all mixing it up. And I saw a 3-star general talking to Michael Waltrip. So I walked over to that area, and the general looked at me and said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, are we trying to get a hold of Michael? Let me." And I said, "No, sir, I'd like to talk to you." So I had a nice talk with him, and somehow it came out that my son's at the Air Force Academy. And he said, "Well, what's his name?" And he wrote it down. He had his aide there, I think it was a captain or something, write it down and all that. He went to visit my son, which I don't think he's ever forgotten that or forgiven me for it. So to have a major general come by and say hello, I thought it was a good thing. I thought he would enjoy that, but apparently not. Apparently he was hoping for a different dad at that moment that wouldn't do that to him. But he was a heck of a nice guy, and my son's done very well in the Air Force. He's done well in spite of his dad. He's done well, and now he's moving to Tucson. Yeah, he got stationed in Tucson. He's been overseas for 10 years, in different places, all over the place. He's been United Arab Emirates, was there for a couple of years. He's been in England. He set up an Osprey squadron in England, and then he set up an Osprey squadron in Japan, and then he took command of the Osprey squadron in Japan, and now he's in Sicily, working with unmanned vehicles. And now he's going to be back in Tucson. He's coming to Tucson, which will be interesting. I'll get to see him more. Well, we'll get to see him, see what he's up to. See if he's forgiven me for the general that visited him in the Air Force Academy. I don't think so. Maybe not. I probably shouldn't bring it up. I've got an article here on why Trump is denouncing the media's Iran war. And for good reason, I think he's denouncing it, and Trump as well as other people in his administration are. Phone lines are open, 928-941-0304. That is my cell phone. It's not going to be a forever phone in here, but let's see. The U.S. military has devastated and all but destroyed its military effectiveness, period, full stop. That's the way the article starts. And of course, we get that from Donald Trump's administration. We get it from him personally. We get it from a lot of places. But Donald Trump is accusing the media of wanting America to lose the war. And for good reason. I think they twist things and they try to point out as much negativity as they can and not look at the big picture. And I think it's unfair because they treat the Democrats differently than they do the Republicans. I think that's well noted. It's been surveyed and of course, you know, when you look at over time, it's exactly the way it falls, and it annoys him. So he's accused him of wanting to lose. He's a journalistic credibility has plummeted in the Trump era. President has used lawsuits and other tactics to pressure news organizations. Yes, he has. He's also collected a lot of money for his library doing that stuff. Journalists have an obligation, and this is where the FCC comes in. And keep in mind that Trump has put the FCC chairman in place, and the FCC has a requirement that if you've got a license to broadcast publicly, that it's got to be good for the country. It's got to, yep. They can pull it, and they've done that in the past. In fact, let me see. I think the last time they pulled it, it's in this article, was 1969. Yeah. The commission revoked its license of Jackson, Mississippi station WLBT for airing racist programming and refusing to allow civil rights viewpoints. That's how rare it is that the FCC ever steps in. 1969 was the last time they did that in Jackson, Mississippi, that they ever pulled it. Although there's been some noise that they want to see some corrections, which is fair. And I'm not in favor of just pulling licenses, but they need to put some pressure on these guys just to be balanced in some sort. It says it's hardly a shock, but the president's been combative with those asking the questions. I don't believe that's true. I mean, he's combative with stupid questions. He's combative with people asking questions about immaterial things when there's really important things on the table. They give people focus on the blockade of oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, and they do. And the fact that oil prices have soared, and they do. And that's fair information. But it seems to be the totality of the information at times. And that's the problem. And that they focus on those. And not just focus on it, but I don't know if it was CBS or ABC that came out and said, look, the military didn't think about Strait of Hormuz being a problem, which is just so ridiculous, where the Peaks Hegseth and others have to come out and correct all that. Of course, it's on the planning books. Of course. They go through that. It's just terrible they would say it. But this points out that one reporter on Air Force One asked why he was sending 5,000 Marines and sailors to the Middle East. And of course, this is during this whole deal. And he says, well, you're a very obnoxious person. That was what Trump's answer was. And she wouldn't quit. So she asked, she kept pushing it about a fundraising letter that he'd drawn criticism for, featuring dignified return of 6 fallen American soldiers in Delaware. A solemn occasion, generally seen as about politics. And Trump called in. He said, well, what station are you with? He said, ABC. She says, it's one of the worst, most fake, most corrupt. So she persisted. Will you comment on the dead soldiers? Trump says, ABC News. I think it's maybe the most corrupt news organization on the planet. I think they're terrible. So she did it again, the third attempt. He says, okay, I don't want any more from ABC. Good for Trump, I guess. Good for Trump. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, calls them low-life papers, and media actually wants us to lose the war. They're terrible, reporting the exact opposite of the actual facts. They are truly sick, demented people, have no idea the damage they cause the United States of America. Of course, the Strait of Hormuz all being out there. One CNN report with 4 journalists contributing said top Trump officials acknowledged to lawmakers during recent classified briefings that they did not plan for the possibility of Iran closing the strait in response to strikes according to 3 sources familiar with the closed door session. They don't name who they are. And that's the comments that Hegseth had to come out and push so hard back on. He kind of unloaded him and said, "Some in this crew in the press just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business, and I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen in the last couple of days alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has been that has because that's what they do. What would the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and you do too, if you can't, if it can be admitted. I like Hegseth. I mean, he's got the experience in the journalism too. Hegseth slams more fake news from CNN, reports that Trump administration underestimated Iran's war impact on the Strait. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the Strait hostage. CNN doesn't think that we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. Of course, I don't think that stops them. But in steps the FCC a little bit. And the FCC has been making a little bit of noise of, look, what are the responsibilities of the organizations that have licenses to broadcast in the United States? They come with some responsibilities. And Trump went on social media saying, so thrilled to see Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, looking at the licenses of some of the corrupt and highly unpatriotic news organizations. Carr said on X now, broadcasters that are running hoaxes and news distortions, also known as the fake news, have a chance now to correct course before their license renewals come up. The law is clear. Broadcasters must operate in the public interest, and they will lose their license if they do not. Now, I know there's some on the left that are going to say this is bullying, and this is bashing them, this is censorship to try to get them to censor and to not tell in their minds what the truth is. I think it's an attempt to stop them from warping the truth or to tell full truth, not part truth. Because they can change the narrative by telling little bits and pieces of the truth and not the bigger picture. And I think that's been the crafting that's been going on in the news, obviously to favor one political party over the other, and that's what's unfortunate. The chairman said changing course would be a smart decision, a business decision. Trust in legacy media has now fallen to an all-time low. That part is undoubtedly true. I don't think we'll see any broadcast stations lose their license, since that's where these extraordinary, rare actions would be carried out, not at the network level. Elizabeth Warren is already upset about it. She's saying, look, it's constitutional law 101. Illegal for the government to censor free speech. It just doesn't like about Trump-Iran war. This threat is straight out of the authoritarian playbook. Well, what does she think about the 1969 revoking of the license in Jackson, Mississippi for airing racist programming and refusing to allow civil rights viewpoints? Was that authoritarian? Was that right out of Constitutional Law 101, illegal for government to censor free speech? It's not about free speech. You have a license. No one's censoring free speech. But if there's a license that you possess to put it on the airwaves, that's controlled and regulated by the U.S. government. They just ask that it be supportive. It's got to be in the public interest. Of course, that's a subjective thing. What is the public interest? I guess Elizabeth Warren, the public interest would be to destroy Trump. I don't think that's really in the public interest. And they do have rules in place anyway about fair, balanced opportunities for, especially on the political front, which many of the stations don't follow at all. I mean, there's been recent reports of stations like Jimmy Kimmel or something about the guests. All their guests are 100% Democrat. The View, 100% Democrat, and all that. And I don't know that in itself is terrible. I mean, if the station has maybe shows they're 100% Republican, I don't know how they balance that out. But there seems to be none. I'm not in favor of censoring speech. I find The View hilarious at times. It's, you got to look at it in a different way, like it's satire instead of reality. And unfortunately, these people are thinking it's reality, but it's actually hilarious, some of the viewpoints and all that. But if they allow it to go on in a bubble and that's the only viewpoint anyone ever is going to get, and that's what the station stands for, well, then it should be labeled as what it is. That it's completely biased in a certain direction, just like that station in 1969 was completely biased and anti, and it was very racist and anti, as far as civil rights. And should a station exist that's has a civil rights problem and doesn't believe in civil rights? Probably not on the airwaves. I don't think so. Uh, can they exist on the internet? Can they exist in other formats where it's free speech? Have at it if that's what you really stand for. Have at it, as long as it's not threatening in any way or causing violence or whatever, or asking for violence. I would think. It's free speech. Have at it. Go at it every day. If you want to stand on a street corner and say that you're a racist, go ahead. If you want to stand on a street corner and say I hate Donald Trump and I've got Trump derangement syndrome, that's all good. The question is it fulfilling the promises made to be able to own a broadcast license, that it's in the public interest? And I don't think it's been looked at for a lot. I mean, obviously, nothing's happened to a station that stepped out of bounds since 1969. Trump is looking at it seriously. And I think they would do well to at least self-evaluate and make sure they're in a position they want to be in. It's up to them. It's up to them. If they want to be in a position of continuing on to be anti-Trump, to be anti whatever Trump's for. And it's just kind of ridiculous. These same stations didn't really do a lot of reporting when we pulled out of Afghanistan, and it was a total disaster for Joe Biden. I mean, some of it's out there, sure, but it was given very little time and very little direction, and it was Trump's fault because he had the plan. And that's exactly what Biden said. I'm commander in chief. He didn't say that, but he is commander in chief. He says, well, Trump said this is the way to do it. That's not exactly his words, but he said he followed Trump's plan for withdrawal, which was not Trump's plan for withdrawal. Trump's plan was to withdraw, not to give up the airfield, and not to do it in such a way that you gave up the airfield before you evacuated everyone else. The airfield should have been the last to go because they were what was protecting everyone. No, it was a total botch deal. And they blamed it on Trump, and the press never did it justice at all, ever. If Trump was still in power when that thing happened, I think that would have been a 24/7 debate. It never would have stopped. And I don't think anyone finds anything different in that. I think they all trust that's the same. So I think the news can be the news is going to be in a little bit of trouble. I think so. If they continue on, if they don't adjust. I've got to take a quick break and I'll be right back. AM5, no, it's not. I'll stop saying AM 560 the second we probably get the channel back. For right now, I don't mean to. It's Mortgage One Studio. I'm back with you. Russ Clark Show's back. Mortgage One Studio. I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to talk about health for just a second. Nah, I'm on my health. I've done that. Steak and Shake. I never thought of Steak and Shake as a health food place. I know that Kennedy gave him kudos for moving to beef tallow for the French fries. Well, they just rolled out new tater tots, and somehow that's news, which is hilarious to me. But it's cooked in beef tallow. I need to get out there and try that. Um, I don't know where the nearest Steak and Shake is to us. It's not in Yuma, that's for sure. I would know that, but we don't have one. But the announcement, came out on social media, and they're proud of it. That's the authentic way of frying potatoes when tater tots were invented in 1950, which is new information. That's trivia I didn't know. They were cooked in beef tallow, according to Steak and Shake. And Steak and Shake is bringing them to you in the 21st century as the only chain offering 100% beef tallow tots. You can get a taste of throwback tots. Beef tallow, tendered beef fat, used in restaurant fryers decades ago before many chains switched to vegetable oils. According to industry experts, in recent years, some restaurant foods influencers have revived interest in the ingredient amid debates, seed oils, and traditional cooking methods. Well, it's got a lot of mixed reviews. People asking if they're crispy. I'm going to quite literally find out one of your restaurants tomorrow. Tallow tots, speaking my love language. Oh my gosh, I'm there and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things, Senator. But then the health people say, honestly, you're going for the health edge. You should be using organic avocado oil. I have no idea. I thought all the seed oils were a problem when used for that, but I don't know. And then the vegans jumped in. Not everyone eats mammals. Great for paleo carnivores. Not great for the vegetarians and vegans. There we go. Tater tots are still deep fried food, no matter the frying medium. And dietitian and nutritionist people are pointing that out. That not good. Well, the company Steak and Shake announced that you don't have to eat them all the time. You said just an occasional part of a healthy diet. I think that's what they say when there's something unhealthy. Moderation, occasional indulgence for a healthy diet. Probably makes sense. Steak and Shake also announced they're removing all microwave ovens from its kitchen. They did that back a while ago. Quality restaurants don't need microwaves. I still have a microwave at the house. And for some reason, it's thrown in on this article that Steak and Shake began giving its hourly employees a Bitcoin bonus of 20 cents per hour and is offering a $1,000 contribution to the Trump accounts. I don't know what that means, Trump account. I guess that's political in nature. To the Trump accounts. And in Bitcoin. Yeah, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. I don't know what one Bitcoin's worth. One Bitcoin's been up to over 100,000. It's been down to 60,000. I don't know. It has moved around a lot. Anti-ICE agitators. We haven't seen a lot of, and people have asked me, what's happened in Minneapolis? Why are we not seeing the riots and the stupid stuff anymore? The people, the thing that got people killed. Changes have been made, and it came from the state. Tim Walz, I guess, even though they're a sanctuary state and all, they started working with ICE in some ways, and ICE sent a bunch of people home. A lot of the Border Patrol and others that were there to protect ICE, they went home, and ICE is continuing to do their work with some backup or support of local law enforcement, keeping the mobs away, arresting people. They also have have done some integration into some of these organized groups like Antifa that, in tracking back some of their money, where it comes from, how they're paying for all these plane tickets and everything for these travel guys who travel all around. And the article I read on it not too long ago showed that they thought that Antifa was just chaos all over the place, and chaotically people would show up and do it. And it wasn't. It was all planned, because they end up confiscating some calendars and some itineraries and some programming, some planning, which of course is conspiracy to commit crimes, I guess. I would hope that arrest in Antifa continues and that they find a lot of these people. And apparently some of them have left the country. It's not safe to be an active criminal like that right now because they're kind of on to them. I think they used some of the laws that they used on the KKK to split them guys up and to stop their antics. I don't think they've been stopped, but I think they've hunkered down a little bit. But last month, after anti-ICE agitators blew an operation, so they recently blew an operation on February 12th. They were in Boston, which is a sanctuary city, and they were parking outside this guy's house, Walter Roberto Vadez Ortez. He's wanted in his native El Salvador for child rape. He's in the country illegally. He's a criminal guy. And the ICE activists, were waiting on him to come out of his house. They can't go kick the door in. They don't have those kind of warrants. They have to wait till he's in public. Well, they were sitting outside in their vehicles, and I guess the local anti-ICE group recognized that it was a ICE vehicle or something. So they started blowing whistles, cursing at them. And apparently some said they were traumatizing children at a nearby elementary school down the street. Of course, it depends on who's going to write the article. And many articles are going to write that ICE irritated the children, that the presence of ICE caused a problem and traumatized children, versus these anti-ICE blowing whistle and screaming obscenities. One agitator called the agents a criminal. According to ICE, the cover was blown. No arrests were made. But of course, he was arrested later on March 12th. They're not going to quit. It costs a lot more money to keep these ICE on these guys, to make this one arrest, which should have been done. They should have moved on to the next arrest or so on. So their efforts were wasted on that day. Thanks to these wonderful patriots, non-patriots, blowing whistles and screaming at ICE officials. Ortiz was living near a school, was on the street much longer than he should have been, posing a public risk, and they picked him up. And obviously the ICE agents were parked outside his residence, and you notice it upset the kids right down the street, which is what he was in trouble for. Child rape in El Salvador. He entered illegally in Texas in 2016. And it was the same year that El Salvador issued an arrest warrant for him. Many think he fled to the United States just to get away from El Salvador to avoid prosecution. ICE and Trump officials have repeatedly said that ICE is going after illegal immigrants who have committed crimes while in the United States. Well, apparently this guy committed it before he got here. There was a video in here that they showed, or I guess was part of this article. ICE agent confronting people in St. Paul. I remember seeing this. It's been a while. These people were honking car horns, disrupting federal officers. They attempted to take a suspect into custody. So the agent said, "We're here to arrest a child sex offender, and you guys are out here honking." Someone responded, one of the honkers, "No, we're the press. We're not honking," which obviously as they're laying on the horn. So the agent points to one, said that vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigation while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. It's insane. I guess these anti-ICE activists, they believe they're doing the right thing, or they're being paid well to do the wrong thing. I have no idea which, one way or the other. They continue getting these people, but it has subsided in Minneapolis, or we'd be seeing it on the news every night. That was a favorite for the news. They were putting it out there, especially when 2 people were killed. Yeah, two people unfortunately were killed. It's Renee Good and Alex Pretty. Not good. But that happened, and I know the left were looking at it as, something that was to be talked about and pushed to show how evil a group that the ICE people are. My understanding, and I don't know what the final outcome is. I know at least 1 or 2 of the agents have been found, not that they didn't do anything improper in the event that unfortunately resulted in the death. I think that was Alex Pretty, but and I don't know about the other one, but I think to me it's cut and dry. But I'm not the one adjudicating it, but it looks cut and dry to me, and it's an unfortunate situation. But those people made a dangerous situation tons more dangerous, and then put themselves in the middle of it. I just don't think it's a good plan. I don't think it's going to end well. Let me see. There's a progressive group out there that it is advocating for illegal immigrants to be eligible for guaranteed income programs. I don't know that we have a lot of guaranteed income programs as it is, but there's an organization that's working on trying to get that done. They're operating in the largest county in Illinois, which makes sense. Illinois is very progressive, and it's run like that. They want economic protections for illegal immigrants. There's an organization called Community Change Action, and they're a sister group or other group of others that do similar things. But the advocacy, they're an advocacy of an organization called Community Change. So I guess that's in here. They want immigrant inclusive democracy that will ensure that no person, regardless of immigration status, is excluded from basic social and economic protections. Economic freedom, as they call it. Of course, the downside to this is somebody's going to pay for it. And these organizations, they get some donations, and we'll talk about some of that on the donations, where they get their money and all that. Why don't they just give the immigrants their money instead of doing all this nonsense? Well, they want the taxpayers to pay for it. I think the taxpayers end up paying a lot for these community change organizations too, the way that government grants work. I think we pay for them at our own demise. And some of that has been reversed by Trump already. It's been found out. These guys were getting paid through the EPA, and I'll get to that. But a guaranteed income empowers workers and families with economic security. That's what it says on their website. It empowers, and it guaranteed income. Yeah. So empowers them to stay home. It says we're organizing towards a future where all of us, no matter what we look like or where we come from, we have the freedom to live full, dignified lives. It cites states over a link to its section on guaranteed income. That's they want a guaranteed income, and they were the ones behind the $15, or at least they were supporting it anyway. The $15 minimum wage and all that other nonsense. It's not $15 anymore. No, it's been moved up because of inflation. Because inflation was spurred on by the $15 that people did get. More recently, the Community Change is advocating for permanent statewide guaranteed income in Illinois. I don't know exactly how that worked, but what it sounds like is if you're working age and you're guaranteed an X amount by the state, working or not, probably. So it's building on its success in Cook County, and that is one of the largest in Illinois. The group helped establish the first permanent cash assistance program in the U.S. Its partner organization, Union for a Guaranteed Income, played a pivotal role in securing $7.5 million to launch the program. Byron Hobbs is director of organizing for the Economic Freedom Team at Community Change. He says our long-term vision, our North Star, is to win a statewide permanent guaranteed income program for 100,000 eligible Illinoisans, which that's the goal, is to get people start guaranteed income, no matter, I guess, what the job. It's a lot like communism, which kind of has a guaranteed income, but everybody makes the same. Nobody, that's why you don't have a big bell curve on the haves and the have-nots. Like in the United States, got that big bell curve going on. They don't get that. It's more like a hockey stick. You got kind of like a straight line. Everybody's supposed to make about the same until you get to the oligarchs and the CCP people, people that are in charge. And then the hockey stick jumps up. But everybody else could make the same. That's what guaranteed income is. Everybody makes the same. This event is about educating folks on what guaranteed income is, but also bringing them into the fight as we continue to try to win guaranteed income programs through the state of Illinois, which again is socialism in its finest. And it's a guaranteed income that ends up going to be pretty small income. Take a look at Cuba. Take a look at some of these other communist and socialistic countries, Venezuela, Cuba, and so on. They want to establish federal guaranteed income. That's their long-term goal. Bold proposals for a guaranteed income at all levels of government. Guaranteed income is one piece of the broader objective of community change action, in addition to advocating for cash handouts to illegal immigrants. They just come out and say it. Community change action previously called to cut off funds from U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement. That was after the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, the ones that got mixed up with ICE. Are demanding lawmakers to vote to get ICE out of Minnesota. So they've got principles. They know where they stand. Communities have bravely confronted these violent acts by ICE. They've shared groceries and medicine, put their bodies on the line. They've closed their wallets to the business of ICE. So I looked after reading this. I was like, well, where does this community change action get its money? Because obviously they're spending a lot of money to have these kinds of organizations and to have the people running them that they're doing, and to lobby, advocate, and demonstrate, and then get in the way of people. Well, the Ford gave them 2.35, not the Ford Motor Company, the foundation, 2.53 million. The Kellogg they gave them 3 million. And then the Open Society, that's the George Soros group, 1.75 million. But I guess that's a lot of money for this one organization as they're pushing to get you to. They're a 501c4. They were formed in 1968. Actually, they've been around a long while. They fought civil rights. They fought for civil rights, and now they're fighting to give everybody money. And but they live on donors and large grants. So I'm really interested in the grants. And I found out a little information about them, but the grants, of course, when you say grants generally come from federal government. The federal government puts out the grants, and these progressive lawmakers make up grants that they know that go to the progressive institutions or whatever and get used for whatever. And some of these grants that the community change action was getting was through the EPA. Yeah, that somehow, and I don't know how this works for EPA, but the EPA gave out a $3 billion grant, $3 billion, not just to them, but they had $3 billion to give out. it was written into the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember the Inflation Reduction Act put in by Biden? Yeah, Biden got that Inflation Reduction Act through, which did everything except work on inflation. It never was about inflation. It was about green energy mostly, but it was also about these kind of things, is making sure that the nonprofits, the NGOs, the 501c3, C4s, they end up with a lot of money that can do the bidding of progressives. So $3 billion went to the EPA to be funneled out for environmental and climate justice. Environmental justice and climate justice. So this group, Community Change Action, was getting money from that for climate justice and environmental justice. Remember, it was stated by one of the organizations working within the Biden group that it was like throwing gold bars off the Titanic because they knew they were getting out of office. They were throwing money at NGOs like crazy. Well, it was even during the Inflation Reduction Act they were doing that. Now, I read an article that a new EPA manager came in and was able to cancel 1.5 billion of that, able to claw that back, which is good news. Under the Trump administration, claw back that 1.5 billion that was going to fund environmental and climate justice. And I don't even know how you identify what exactly that means. I think it's so ambiguous. It could mean anything. It obviously meant that you could give money to an organization called Community Change Action that's calling for a guaranteed income program. And I'm sure the people working for the Community Change Action get a guaranteed income program themselves. They get guaranteed income, I'm sure. And it all comes from your tax dollars. I say all. There is money coming from Ford. There's money coming from the Open Society. And Open Society gets a lot of money from tax dollars. They spent a lot creating their own 501c3s and all that end up getting lots of grants. And those grants end up, opening up more 501c3s. There needs to be an end to some of this stuff. This stuff has gotten out of hand. The money seems to flow through these NGOs, and it's not good. And it's supporting political action, unfortunately. It's supporting the political action that a lot of us wouldn't even agree with. Oh, I apparently still have a commercial break banner up. Thank you, Edward. Trump account, a program offering U.S. children financial support from birth. Trump accounts. Wait a minute. Each eligible newborn receives a $1,000 initial deposit, with parents able to contribute up to $5,000 annually. Funds grow, and I think I heard about this. I kind of blew it off. Funds grow in low-cost index funds, accessible at age 18 for education or home purchase. Major companies and philanthropists are backing it, aiming for launches July 5th. Okay, I heard they were talking about it. It hasn't launched yet. When it says U.S. children, I was a child once, Edward. I don't know if I qualify. What is the qualification? Is that newborns? When I read it initially, and I think that came out. That came out some time ago. I think I read initially that was going to be newborns or something, like you get a birth certificate and $1,000. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Oh, one of my listeners says, good thing about Minneapolis is that it led to Trump getting rid of Ice Barbie. That's Christy Nome. Not sure if any better, no background is good at offering it to a brawl during a state hearing. And he's talking about the new prospect, the next, but Ice Barbie. I don't know if I've heard that before. But I knew exactly what it was as soon as you said Ice Barbie. Christy Nome. I didn't dislike Christy Nome, but she probably overstepped quite a few things, including some of the spending stuff that Trump's going to replace her. Obviously, he's already made that decision, but that doesn't surprise anybody either. Trump doesn't put up with a lot of nonsense. He'll replace people very quickly. He'll get that done. I want to talk about electric school buses. I'm an advocate of electric. I think it's a good use. Some of this electric cars, electric school buses, electric trucks, and all that. I think there's not enough infrastructure to do a Greyhound bus to run cross country. I think that's a non-starter at this stage. We don't have the battery for it, the infrastructure, the charging capability. It's not going to work. I don't think. But for school buses that are mostly parked, I mean, where they fire them up and go out and get the kids for the morning, and then they take them home in the evening. It kind of makes sense. The range doesn't have to be, 1,000 miles or anything. In most cases, usually those routes are not very long. I don't know how many miles the average school bus it puts on a day, but I can't imagine it being over 50 miles or so, maybe 100. Most of your battery life and all that is going to be it's going to fall into that thing perfectly, and then you just plug it in. So if you're going to do electric, I looked at that and said, well, that wouldn't make sense. So I looked at this article, and this article comes out of California and New York. Those are the two states that have tried it or are working on it, because they have deadlines for zero emission. Yeah, which I'm not in favor of that. New York and California are kind of wacko on that anti-carbon fuel, kill it at all cost, even if it kills us. Yeah, whatever. But New York's rule takes effect in 2027. All new school buses purchased and fleet-wide goal of 2035 for the transition, and they got to go EVs, electric. California's new purchase mandates will take effect in 2035 with 5-year extension available for rural district schools. And rural schools may be a little different. They may have a lot more miles, but I don't know. Well, to get ahead of it, they're starting to experiment with electric school buses. And I think that's good. Give it a try, see what you think. Well, one of the places that are trying it is in Rochester, New York. They're trying to examine the financial impact at the Naples Central School District. So they don't like them. Pat Elwell, he's a transportation director and head mechanic. He said that EVs that consumers drive as personal vehicles are ahead of the curve. Electric buses are not. Technology's not there. The batteries are not there. And that kind of surprises me. Why wouldn't they use something similar? I mean, I know Tesla doesn't make a bus, but I would think something similar. But I've never driven one. I haven't looked through the specs. But electric buses perform better in some respects, getting up hills and offering a smoother ride. He cautioned performance is dependent on temperature. They work between 20 degrees and 80 degrees. But temperatures outside that range can impact battery life. Yes, they do. They do impact it. It doesn't zero it out. It impacts it. And we have a lot of Teslas and electric vehicles in Yuma, and it gets hot. And it does degrade a little bit during those really hot days. It's not permanent, but it degrades during that time. But I don't think it's kept them off the road. He said the drivers reported that electric buses perform better in some respects, but that's it. But when it's wintertime, about 20% of the battery charge is going to heating the vehicle. And that's interesting. And I don't know what kind of heaters they're using. I think Tesla's made some big jumps in that and using some energy efficient, like heat type pump or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but he's got something that is, I guess, more energy efficient. That's not killing him. But here's something that Elwell says that I just don't believe. He said the district pays about 36 cents per mile to operate its diesel buses. Well, I think that's probable. 36 cents a mile. And he noted it's relatively stable because the district can buy fuel through state contracts. Of course, it's not stable right now because diesel fuel's $5 a gallon right now. He said the electric, on the other hand, is all over the place because you never know from month to month what it's going to be, which I'm surprised at that. I mean, APS is pretty stable. So the time you start factoring in your kilowatt hour for the supply and the delivery and all the other charges, just the same as you would on the diesel bill, we're at $3.18 a mile on the electric bus. And I say, bull. That's a guy that hates electric because it's not true. Superintendent Kevin Schwartz told the outlet that the cost difference between the electric bus and the diesel is about $300,000. That's close to true. I looked it up. The cost on a new school bus diesel runs between $100,000 and $150,000. True. Electric school bus runs between $250,000 and $400,000. So I guess if you take the absolute cheapest bus at $100,000 and the absolutely most expensive electric $400,000, yeah, it's $300,000. Worst case scenario. But I'll get back to that. So he says, in relatively small districts, we replace 2 buses a year. That's $600,000 in additional monies. Well, only if you went from, bare minimum bus to the most loaded bus, it would go to that much. Obviously it's a bias. So I had to do my own research on it a little bit, look at it. And I looked at the longevity of the buses, and they said they generally last 12 to 15 years. But they can go 30 years. I mean, school buses they're tough. They're tough vehicles. They're built tough. And the frames are going to last and all that. You just get tired of fixing them eventually, and they go away. But some of the mileage on the buses are so low, they could go 30 years. It depends on the use and where you're at. Obviously, you're in a place that's salting all the roads. Maybe they rot out before then. But to have a 30-year-old bus in Arizona, probably not a problem. The electric buses are not going to be any different on that. I mean, they're going to be built pretty much the same. And then the rest of it is just, what's the amortization on that bus, and what is the fuel savings? So I read some articles on some people that were doing these savings, and they said a school bus can save about $10,000 a year in fuel if it's electric. The cost of the power, which they say that it's going to be about 12 to 22 cents per mile on the electric, and it's about 36 cents or so per mile. So it's going to be a huge difference on the cost per mile for the energy. I'm just talking the energy. I think the maintenance is going to be pretty much the same, with the exception of the engine. Now, the engine on a diesel is going to take a little more care, but they're pretty solid units. They're not going to fall apart generally, and they're generally diesel. I don't know that diesel really likes round the town and stuff. They like highways best, but they're generally tough. 150,000 miles on a diesel. That's just breaking it in, as long as it's well maintained. But it does take a lot of maintenance, a lot of oil changes, a lot of filter changes, and those things are expensive on diesels. They're not small. Those things and they come quickly. I mean, you want to change diesels pretty regularly, and they'll last you 500,000 miles. You keep the maintenance up on a diesel, man, it's going to go. And for the people like our snowbirds and the people that drive those big diesel pickups and go cross country driving these big trailers, they hold up great. We see them in the shop all the time, high mileage and really no problems. But you start getting into problems where you have to start replacing injectors and stuff, and that happens over time, no matter how you treat it. It's pricey. Yeah, $1,000 a piece. Yeah, that's going to get there, and then a lot of if you're not taking care of it, you're going to run into big problems, and it's big dollars if you don't take care of them. But I'm assuming the school bus garages are taking care of them. It's expensive to maintain them versus the electric. there's not a lot of stuff to do. But the maintenance on the rest of the bus, alignment, tires, brakes, that's going to be close to the same, I would assume. So I looked at it and I said, well, let's say I bought, where did I write my notes? The I I found that if you bought the $250,000 electric bus and the 150,000 or the $100,000, you're going to save about $3,400 a year. Just on not counting the maintenance on the diesel because I didn't know how to out of put that down. So I think what these guys wrote was a straight lie. A straight lie because they don't like it. They don't like they don't like the electric. That's okay. That's not what they're used to. I think they're very viable, and I think they're going to become better. So as time goes on, Elon Musk is making great strides in batteries every year, as well as other companies coming up with battery things that are really they're not dramatic every year, but their percentages every year since they've started making lithium have increased greatly to where the density is more and more all the time. And if we start mining our own lithium and mining our own heavy metals or our rare metals, rare earth metals, we're going to get these prices down to where it's going to be cheaper than an internal combustion engine. It's just going to be cheaper. It's not there yet. This is still new into the industry, but I think already it makes sense. I know that Tesla has been making tractors electric for quite some time, and they've been going to these companies like Pepsi that has regular routes where they need a tractor trailer. They need a tractor that stays in town. It does regular routes. It goes right back to the same place that it started from. And that's perfect for these because the infrastructure is not out on the road. And I think they're having great luck with it. I don't know how many they're out there, but I know there's been fleets of the Tesla trucks out there. And I know the battery technology keeps improving. And I can't remember how much the electric tractor costs over the diesel. And it wasn't as significant as this. It wasn't that much. It wasn't double the price. And the companies that were using them, I'd read reports that they loved them. They were saving money on maintenance, time on maintenance, because you got to take that tractor offline to put it in the shop for the maintenance, routine maintenance, for the engine. Routine maintenance still has to happen on the frame. That's going to happen where tie rod ends, shocks, tires, that's all going to be the same regardless. But the engine is not going to get near that kind of maintenance. I think they make sense for this application, and I think they'll grow as they get more range. They get cheaper. Electric is here to stay, and I don't think the government needs to mandate it. I'm not really in favor of California and New York mandating this stuff. They should let it happen naturally, and it will. I mean, if it's a viable frame and machine, and it's viable for the use, it's going to happen naturally. The electric car is not new; it's been around for 100 years. Yeah, we got away from them. It wasn't viable. It just wasn't. Didn't have the range. Of course, that was lead acid batteries at first. Diesel prices, I mentioned that, and it has passed $5 a gallon because of the war in the Middle East. There's no question about it. The Strait of Hormuz is impacting between 10 and 20% of the total global seaborne diesel supplies. The U.S. national average for gasoline prices Monday, which is today, $3.76 a gallon, the highest since October of 2023, according to Gas Buddy. And the diesel, I guess that's the highest since it was in December of 2022. So, and that's when Russia and Ukraine really started going at it, and it spiked the the prices then. And this is going to be a spike. And I know Trump is aware. He's very sensitive to it. And they've got to get that straight open. And they can't think it's open and start trying it, because you start blowing up tankers, it's going to shut it down. Just the insurance companies alone will shut it down. They'll say you're not traveling. We're not going to pay for your losses. They've got to get in there. They got to get the Marines in there to take over those islands that are defending that strait for Iran. Iran's troops are on those islands. And that's probably something the Marines will go on. At least that's a speculation I hear from some of the people that know what they're talking about. Iran has targeted in Israeli strikes. They've targeted the top Iranian official, Ali Larijani. He was a target. He's a senior official, and apparently the target. And this article says battle damage assessments going on wherever they targeted it. He's the secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. He's walking around Tehran during pro-regime protests on Friday. I've seen pictures of that. They don't look like AI. And he's the de facto leader. The U.S. government has offered rewards for justice. I didn't know we had such a thing. Is offering a reward of up to $10 million for information on the key leaders of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its components. And the branches, and if you spell out rewardsforjustice.net space notes, that's a website, rewardsforjustice.net space notes. And then under this reward, they're seeking information on the following individuals: Larijani, the supreme leader, Kamani, and then others. It just says others. But I read a report this morning after this article was written that this Larijani was already found dead. That they think he's died. They think that Israeli did strike him. That's not a promotion you want to get right now. Like we've got an opening for Supreme National Security Council. I don't know, but this thing is happening so fast. And I know I listened to people the other day making correlation between this and World War II. Like, what would World War II have been like if we could have moved this fast on Nazi Germany and known where Hitler was and be able to end that regime right then? Well, how would that have changed the war? How quickly would that have been over if these things were possible back then? I mean, the stuff that Trump is doing, well, our military is doing it, but the things that Trump is allowing done is kind of mind-blowing. Yes, I know we've had satellites. I know we've had information. I know we've had intel forever. It's not all brand new. I'm sure the quality stepped up and the detail has stepped up, and we get things faster. But it's not all brand new. But the way we're going at it now, with some of the weapons that we've got at our disposal, being able to pinpoint targets like a person is amazing. And the U.S. government is all in on this. This isn't an action that's a political war like Vietnam or something, where you just couldn't engage targets because no, they're in a zone we can't engage. There's nothing that I've heard of that can't be engaged. Trump has made comments that there's things that we could do that we haven't yet that would shut you down for forever, which I think what he's in reference to is that he could take out infrastructure like just power plants and things. Well, if you take out infrastructure for power plants, that population there, I mean, they couldn't get food. They couldn't get, it would be a disaster beyond belief. I mean, they could absolutely neutralize that entire country. Of course, I don't think anybody wants to see that because the civilian population would suffer along with the military. They would absolutely wipe them out. But you could turn off the water, turn off the electricity, turn off the sewage plants, turn off, any new gasoline or diesel getting there. So which they'd run out of. There would be no transportation. There would be no movement. There would be no farming. The stores wouldn't get new products. I mean, that could happen. It's not a trigger he's pulled. And I don't know if that's what he's alluding to or not. I think he's doing the right thing to open up the Strait of Hormuz right now, if he can, and get the Marines in there to take over those islands so that he can have control of those. Let me see. Soleimani and other officials targeted in strikes amid ongoing war. This is another story about the same thing. And it says over a dozen Banji officials were targeted. And I had to look that up. I don't know what kind of officials those are. Those it's like a volunteer force is what it translates to. Officials were targeted in Iran last night in different strikes. I'm sure it's the same one that included in the story above. Included in the head of the Banji forces, Soleimani. This was a joint U.S.-Israel effort. A strike team in Tehran targeted the Banji commander and around a dozen others, including the most senior figures in the forces. People with a lot of blood on their hands. A battle damage assessment is ongoing, determining which individuals were killed or injured. And that must have happened at the same time the other official, Larijani, which is with the Supreme National Security Council. Yes, if you're part of the leadership in Iran, you don't want to have your name on your mailbox right now. It is amazing the freedom they've got since they have air superiority. They can pretty much fly over and do anything in that country they want. Rockets and drones were fired at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Rockets and drones, I guess it was Tuesday. So this is a report from Tuesday. Already, I mean, I guess it was already Tuesday over there. It says from areas around the city. Most intense barrage since the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran. 3 drones headed in the direction of the embassy, according to the outlet. They were observed. The CRAM air defense system intercepted 2 of the drones. The third struck inside the embassy compound. Fire and smoke were seen rising, according to witnesses. So it doesn't say anything about the damage. It says it struck inside the compound. Hopefully it struck the lawn, but don't know. And like we keep hearing, the ability of Iran has been greatly reduced, but they still have stuff that's going to cause problems. That's still out there. The Democrat senators, of course, are under a lot of pressure right now. The Senate's under a lot of pressure right now because we have DHS that is not funded. So we got TSA that's not working. A lot of it's not working, and you got backups at airports and 5 hours at some airports to get in line to be checked onto an aircraft because they wanted to strike against Homeland Security because of ICE. It wasn't for TSA, it was because of ICE, but that all got wrapped up into it. Well, they've got all that going on, and it's starting to look bad for them. I mean, the public opinion on it is coming out bad. So the Democrats are out verbally saying they want to end government shutdown. On Friday, Slocum, the Senator Lisa Slocum out of Michigan, a Democrat, she was at a news conference, and she said, following an anti-Semitic attack on the Temple Israel synagogue in her state, that certainly Congress must fund DHS. What she didn't say in that little speech is that she voted 4 times to block the DHS funding. Now, that's got to be catching up to these Democrats. The pressure's got to be there. They are verbally saying we need to open it. At the same time, they've been blocking. Senator Roger Marshall, Republican out of Kansas, accused Democrats of trying to shift blame for the shutdown. Well, that's what they do, right? And they're good at it. They're really good at it. And the big difference is they have 90% of the legacy media backing them up. So it's hard. But again, 4 times this afternoon, the Democrats voted against funding DHS. Yeah, 4 times. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer accused Republicans of using the federal workers as a variety of agencies under DHS, like the Transportation Security Administration and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, as hostages. The same Chuck Schumer that has led and made sure that DHS is shut down. He's blaming the Republicans as using them. He says, I remind my Republican colleagues, we're going to be back here again and again, winning this debate and eventually winning the American people. Well, I don't know what the debate is about ICE. The Democrats want certain restrictions on ICE before they agree to fund DHS. So they're blaming DHS, being held back on Republicans because they won't give in to their demands. Slocum and others are now signaling, though, that openness to funding Customs and Border Protection, which many Democrats have sought to deny federal funding to, in addition to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, we need, in my view, to cut away all the conversation on ICE, which is its own conversation. I don't know. I don't think you can separate it. ICE is already funded. Yeah, they're defunding DHS, but ICE was funding in the big, beautiful bill somehow. That part of it was. The rest of it wasn't. Senator Mark Warren, Democrat out of Virginia, says he supports funding DHS after voting against full-year appropriations for the department on Thursday. Yeah, they're all wanting to fund it now, even though they vote against it. When he was asked if Democrats should break the deadlock, he said, I think we should. What we have offered is that let's pay TSA, let's pay FEMA, let's pay the Coast Guard, let's pay CISA. I'd even say let's pay Customs and Border Patrol. If we can't agree on ICE reforms, let's pay everybody else. ICE is already paid. So you're holding out for ICE, but ICE is in danger of being out of funds for quite some time. It doesn't make any sense. What they're doing is they're holding Coast Guard, FEMA, TSA hostage until we agree on ICE. And what they want ICE to agree to is some things they wouldn't ask from any other law enforcement agency. Silly stuff like you don't wear your mask, you have to wear your name on your, which they wear police anyway. They say police on their vest and on their back of their vest. It all says police because they claim they're not identifying themselves, but they do. Most of them, a lot of them want them not to cover their face ever. Only ICE, they don't want their own, SWAT teams or their own police force to cover their identities. They just want ICE to, so they can dox them, go after their families, and jeopardize their safety. John Fetterman is the lone Democrat to cross the party line so far. He's the only one. They're going to need a lot more to get that through if it's going to, follow the route of the regular zombie filibuster, which is 60 votes. But it's not clear yet whether they have enough Democrats willing to do it yet. But they're starting to see some weakness where they never saw that before. So that's probably a good thing. Maybe we'll come to an end of it. Senator Patty Murray, a Democrat of Washington, says Democrats' position is simple. We want reforms to rein in ICE and Border Patrol. And spell it out, Patty. Exactly what forms are you willing to go with? And the whole bit about you can't cover your face and you got to let people know who you are is ridiculous. Their safety is more important than that. So we also want TSA and FEMA funded, but we're not going back to be blackmailed into cutting a blank check for ICE to get it done. ICE has already got a check. They're already covered. I don't know who's blackmailing who, Patty. Who's blackmailing who? Katie Britt, Republican out of Alabama, last week blocked an effort by Murray to fund the non-immigration portions of DHS. I guess Patty tried to pass a bill that would partially do something. Members need to get in a room, have a tough conversations, and figure out a pathway for the American people. Their safety and security should matter more than politics in November. And unfortunately, Democrats continue to try to take hostages. So they're blaming each other of blackmail and hostages. I think it was the Democrats that called this one. I think you should take credit for it. The other is the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act has become, I guess, it's become hotter news, and you say hotter news because you see the attitudes of Cochran, Thune, and stuff as they're being interviewed. They look pissed. They look mad. I thought that they thought they were going to skate through this thing, give it lip service, but then say, "Oh, we tried our best, but it didn't make it." Well, that's not going to be acceptable. And the House has put them on order. I think there were 50 House members on the Republican side that said they won't pass anything. They won't vote for a single thing out of the Senate until the Senate passes the SAVE Act. It's kind of awesome. I mean, finally standing up for what's right. And it's like 80% of the population in the country want the SAVE Act passed. They think that IDs are a good thing to go vote. I was watching a report this morning on voter fraud in Arizona as they're going through, I think it was a 2024 election, pointing out some of the obvious stuff that they've already found. And some of it goes back to some of the fraud, and I didn't suspect this. You know, we get our licensing and everything, our driver's license, by going down to the DMV. We got a DMV here in town. We go down to a DMV, and DMV can register you to vote. Well, over the years, DMV has done a terrible job as far as customer service. Just a terrible job. You know, lines are long and are notorious for bad service. Although I think it's unfair. I know some people at DMV that have treated me tremendously well, and I really like them. And it's a little easier going in there, but that's kind of a joke everywhere. Everyone knows the DMV is going to be horrible. Nobody wants to go to the DMV. It's sometimes the lines are hours long. It's terrible. And then you get up there and you realize you're missing a document or something after you spent the last 2 or 3 hours in line. Yeah, I've had nightmares like that, especially when I owned a lot of vehicles with a business and I had to constantly, I would trading out vehicles or doing some title work or something. Not so much anymore, but Arizona went the pathway of privatizing a lot of that. So there's a lot of businesses in town that can do the same thing, and they add a $10 surcharge or something. I don't know, some nominal fee to it. But they're friendly, nice, quick, rapid. I like going to them. Yeah, I use them. I use them for title work and all that stuff, and it's just a lot less painful. It's a lot quicker, and they can do most everything the DMV can do. There's a few things you still have to go to the DMV for. But what's come up in these hearings was that they're doing some of the same things that these branch DMVs, these privately held DMVs on voter registration. And they're finding that some of these organizations are owned by the same people that own nonprofits that are get out the vote type profits that are helping Democrats or helping progressive type voting. And that some of the fraud that they're finding is coming from their privatized DMV, where people are finding out they're on the voter registration they didn't want to be. So somehow they said they're going to prosecute some of these people. Some of it is obvious to be fraudulent, obvious to be loading up the voter rolls. I was surprised to hear that this morning. I didn't watch. It was a 2-hour deal. I didn't have time this morning to watch very much of it. It kind of played in the background as I was looking at other things. But they're uncovering a lot of the fraud in Arizona on how it's happening and what's behind it. But it's really scary when you find out there's organizations behind it and they have access to DMV records. They have access to that. And that access is because they own the company that does it. So they're going to be looking into that on how that's good for us. And let me take a phone call. Tanya, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Russ.
Good morning, ma'am.
And good morning, listeners. I just want to call. We're 2 days out from the Lincoln Day dinner, which is the biggest fundraiser that the Yuma GOP puts together every year, and it's going to be the biggest one yet. The urgent call to action is to go grab your tickets as soon as you can, because actually, we were down to 10 tickets yesterday, but
Okay.
I should have checked before calling. We might have less tickets than that now. I don't know. I need to go see. But go to yumagop.com/LDD for Lincoln Day Dinner, LDD, and get your tickets as soon as possible. We're going to sell out. It's going to be an amazing event.
I'm excited about it. You've done a great job rallying this one and getting this one done, and to sell it out was amazing. And we did it ahead of time. Usually, everyone in Yuma waits to the last minute, but they didn't this time.
I know.
They didn't.
Well, I've been told that I'm probably the most persistent person, but you know what? We need to get it done because it really and truly is a great event that will bring us closer together as a party. We have had a lot of wins, and we need to celebrate those. We have a lot of work to do, so we need to come together for that. But most of all, this is a very special year because it's America's 250th birthday. So this is also a celebration for the America 250.
Yeah. No, it's going to be out at Britain's Farms again, which is a nice location for this. They do a great job for us and take good care of us.
It is this Thursday, the 19th of March. So you need to get your tickets as soon as possible. It's going to be awesome. You show up at 5 for the pre-event mixer. Between 5 and 6, we're going to have different activities going on. You get to bid on silent auction items. You get to eat some delicious snacks. You get to meet some awesome candidates that are running this year. And then the program will start right at 6 with an awesome lineup.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a long day.
It is going to be a long day, but we are super organized, and we're bringing a lot of positivity and energy to this because our party needs us. President Trump needs us. We need to win the midterms. So this fundraiser is going to make a lot of things possible, not just locally, but at a grander scale.
Tanya, I appreciate the call. Thanks for reminding us.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tanya, right. She's put a lot of that together. She's drawn up a lot of the stuff. I've sat down and met with her a few times about just the logistics of all of it. And she's detailed. She's very detailed, which is very helpful in these big organizations and these big things. Phone lines are open. I forget to mention that, but it's 928-941-0304. I see Governor J.P. Pritzker is in the news, there in Illinois. And he's alone on the ballot, by the way. He's unopposed for the nomination anyway, to get his third term. And that is the 6th most populous state. He's also a potential for the 2028 White House. I would be surprised. I don't know. I mean, the bench is not that deep on the Democrat side. Newsom, I think, is leading it right now. Kamala Harris is in second, from what I understand. And it's so early that it doesn't mean a lot, but it's interesting. And then Pritzker and some others, but not a deep bench and no rock stars in there. But he's trying to influence the Democrat Democratic seats in that state that are open right now. Dick Durbin is not running. He's 81 years old. Dick Durbin is a Democrat that's retiring. He spent 3 decades in the Senate. And there's 3 Democrats. Now it's a heavy Democrat state. It's a blue-leaning state. Chances of it being a Democrat coming back are pretty solid. There's three people that are facing off in this, and Pritzker's backing Lieutenant Governor Julian Stratton, but there's 2 others, which, backing a candidate when you're already the governor, it's done. I know Trump backs candidates and he's the president and all that stuff. It's problematic at times during a primary. During a primary, it's problematic. I'm not a big fan of it. Trump is, and Trump backs off on it. He doesn't always do that. Sometimes he backs them both if there's 2 or something. He's done a little bit of that. But it's tough to back a single candidate. But Dick Durbin, I mean, with Dick Durbin leaving, Pritzker's doing just that, and he's doing a lot more than that because his family, he's got a very rich family. He's a rich guy. He's a billionaire himself, and the Pritzker family that owns the Hyatt hotel chain has launched several venture capitalists, investment startups. They opened up their own war chest to dish out millions to a super PAC to support Stratton. So he's starting to get some pushback from the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, anyway, Representative Yvette Clarke of New York, saying, look, you're tipping the scales in the primary. A sitting governor shouldn't be heavy-handing the race. Quite frankly, his behavior in this race won't be forgotten by any of us. So they're noticing. Now, the other 2 candidates, and one of them is Raja Kirsch Normorth. I can't pronounce that. We'll call him Raja. Indian name. He's the fundraiser that's in front. He's got the most money. He's got $10 million backing him, a super PAC. Some crypto titans have shelled out money, $10 million, to back Raja. I don't know where Robin Kelly sits, but I guess it wouldn't be nice to be Robin right now. She's a representative right now. But this race matters. It's going to be extremely expensive. They're talking like it's going to be one of the more expensive, and this is just the primary. I think the primary, though, they're seeing in that state that the primary is going to be the eventual winner anyway. Former GOP state chair, though, Don Tracy, and attorney Jeannie Evans is among the Republicans seeking their party's nominations. But it's kind of a side note in Arizona. I mean, in Illinois, it's heavily favored, and the kind of money that these guys are coming up with is not going to be matched by the Republicans. 4 Republicans are seeking their parties for the governor to go up against Pritzker, and Pritzker's got deep pockets. I mean, he's a billionaire. State Senator Darren Bailey, who lost to Pritzker last time by 12 points, is coming back for a second chance at the apple. And I guess he's the favorite for it, so he's 12 points or whatever, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But Pritzker doing that, and I'm against it myself. What am I listening? Is there anything you can point to where Trump made a bad decision? Seems part of MAGA followers follows him blindly. Bad decision. I mean, there's been things I've disagreed with at times. Some of his candidates he's backed, I've disagreed with at times. A bad decision. I don't think Iran's a bad decision. I don't think the SAVE Act's a bad decision. I'd have to think about it. I'm sure there's some out there. When I get it, I don't hesitate to say that. That's I mean, I don't want to nitpick anybody that I agree with 90% of the time. And I believe that about other Republican candidates also. Wow, if anyone can think of anything I shouldn't be backing Trump on, but I back him on the ICE programs. I'm backing him on the and most everything he picks is a populist program. It's not it's not something that he doesn't generally like. The Democrats right now are up against, they don't like the SAVE Act, but yet 80% of the population does. And to me, that's just silly. And I don't think Trump makes those mistakes. I don't think he does that. And if he does make mistakes, he seems to correct them pretty rapidly. And the recently firing of Nome, I didn't dislike Nome at all. I didn't think she was a terrible mistake. Uh, but I think she made some bonehead moves, particularly with some of the spending on the money, and that's something Trump won't tolerate. Just a bad idea. And Trump did the right thing, asked for a resignation, but he's not burying her. In fact, I think she's going to stay with his organization in some capacity. Wait a minute, my fact checker, I'm glad I got to see this before I signed off. Former Vice President Kamala Harris has edged ahead of California Governor Gavin Newsom in a new poll. I didn't know that. And that is just so weird. I mean, Harris is as terrible as I say edged out. She had 26.3%. Newsom has 19.2, Buttigieg 10.4, Ocasio-Cortez 8.6, Shapiro 6.1, Kelly 5.6. I don't even see Pritzker on there. I mean, on the top list, he's not doing it. But Cortez, I don't really know if she's really running. How could Kelly be 5.6? I don't like what he's doing. I don't like the way he acts. I mean, there's just so much about him I don't care for right now. And that whole commercial that he did to say you don't have to listen to orders was just ridiculous and terrible, and trying to cause confusion amongst the ranks. I don't think it worked. I think it backfired on him and hopefully cost him some pay. I mean, I think he's crossed some lines. I need to go. I'm out of time. I got to go get to work because I'm sure Tanya wants me to go do some things to get ready for Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. AM. It's not AM. Non-AM used to be, formerly AM 560, Mortgage One Studio, Russ Clark.